Hey everybody, we are live. We are back with our favorite people, the Hunts. So, welcome everybody to another spotlight. We usually do these on Fridays, but you know what? I don't care anymore. We'll do it whatever day of the week we can do it. And so, Amy and Justin, welcome back. And how y'all doing today?
Good. Thanks for having us again.
Of course. Now, I finally found something, and Justin knows what I've been looking for a while. Ha ha! I finally found one. And
Nice.
it only costs $20 too, actually.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
What number is it?
It's 56 out of 77.
Nice.
So, but before we get started, as ritual for all coffin people, I'm going to bring this up. And where is yours?
I got it.
Where's Amy's?
Right here.
It's in the other room.
Uh-huh.
I got it really quick.
Go get one.
Hey, ain't nobody watching yet, so.
All right, I'm going to put you down.
Little buddy. So, yeah.
And this one, I don't know if you can see it. Let me take it out of the sleeve. Or maybe.
Oh, yeah. I got that one. Yep. I got that one, too.
The Black Gala?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had to do that one.
It's going off my hair.
Oh, my gosh. Look at this. Stop.
No, I know. She sheds like crazy.
Stop, kid. You got to go lay down somewhere. You can
I
play
just
later.
love it. Just like my cat does every time about 7 o'clock.
Well, she won't, like if I'm in here and I'm just working, she won't bother me. She'll sit off to the side. As soon as we're doing something, she wants to be right in our face. Stop.
Hi, Pedro.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the new Kickstarter you guys got. It's only got 8 days left, so
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of go over that one a little bit.
Okay.
Everybody checks down below. The link's down below. Go check it. We're going to take a look at it here in a little bit too.
All right.
Just so everybody can see it. But kind of give us your idea about this book compared to other stuff that you write, typically.
You go.
Okay, so NinjaWitch in general, we'll assume that people have read 1 through 3. We'll go with that. Book 4, since I'm influenced from the movies of the 70s and 80s, I equate this one to The Empire Strikes Back.
Yay!
So when you have, the New Hope, there's all the new characters. You're introducing characters. There's a little bit of conflict and everything. And then you get to something that happens like in an Empire. Luke faces himself, right? And then it's really not him, but and that's how he finds out about his dad. And there's the darkness, and Solo gets carbonite, and it's a deep and dark movie. It's got that sinister effect, right? The Empire is kicking their ass in Hoth. The rebels are on a flee. They're running around. This book is dark. It's sinister. There's a twist. There's something that if you are paying attention to all the little Easter eggs in 1, 2, and 3, you might kind of start putting stuff together. And then also you might be getting there and be like, whoa, what the hell just happened? But it sets up the battle of the centuries that's about to happen in book 5. And book 5 will bring you all the way back to book 1. So the story arc for this first story arc will be complete. And then sets it up to kind of continue. Book 6 through will continue where book 1 kind of ended.
Yeah.
So,
you jump back into the rest of it after.
Yeah, you get back to the modern times. So book 1, for those who haven't watched or read it, rather, starts with modern times. It has a flashback to the 1930s. We'll skip the origin portion of it. And then in order for us to answer the question, because at the end of the book, there was a question posed of how did the Jagannati and the Shadows know where Ninja Witch's team was at their warehouse, So the Dawn of Betrayal, books 2, 3, and now 4, answer that question. they answer the question of how. And then this one, our chapter, we actually call it the Call of Bosgoth, and it's kind of an allusion to the Call of Cthulhu from Lovecraft. I just don't want to put too much out there, but it's
Don't spoil it yet.
Yeah, I'll tell you, when I was writing it, obviously we do it together. She has the story, we kind of blend them and all, but I do the script and actually write the story. I was like, holy shit, you got to read this. This is awesome. And then when I was breaking it down, I was like, oh, I want it to be, nope, I'm going to make it. We have two splash pages in this one. We have 2 double spreads in this one. And I read it, and you look at it, and if you were to take this and put it onto film, everybody in the audience would be like, holy shit, I didn't see, oh my God. Like, it's got that feel to it.
And I've kind of noticed that through the stories, right? Like there's little moments, right, throughout every book, right? Like you can call back to something in the 70s and the 80s to it. You're like, oh, I know what that is, but you can't put your finger on it, right? And that's kind of the feeling of the story. And I enjoy that, right? Because I dig through your stories just like I dig through everybody else's stories, right? Like where can I find things? Like, can I see where it's going to go? And you really don't know where it's going. Right. And that's what I like about the story. That's why I'm kind of hooked on it, is to see where is it going to go next. I have some ideas, but the thing is no. But I have some ideas where like I would like to see like where it's going to go in the modern times, right? Like in the modern times, we have a lot of things different that she is going to have to really deal with, right? And that's going to be completely different than what she dealt with in the past.
Right.
So,
and it's when I get to write it, there's certain key elements that we want the characters. Each character has a unique aspect to the character, and we're building the characters, but the background, I think in a lot of movies and a lot of books, the background becomes lost, and in ours, the background itself is its own character. So like in book 3, right, the ships had their own kind of feel to them, but then when the mermaids were there was a definitive, the way the bad sailors were interacting with the mermaids versus NinjaWitch's dead sailors, the mermaids reacted differently. So what does that tell you about her? One time they're really bad, right? But when her people go into the water, they're respected. So she's working with nature. She's given nature that trust and that respect, and nature's giving it back. So, you're seeing that she's more than just this linear character. There's a bunch of different levels to her.
And that's kind of the thing, right? There's magic involved, right? And we all see that it's involved into a certain level. You just don't know how far it's going to go, right? And that's kind of the story, right? And that's, you can have sorcerers, you can have magic, warlocks, things like that, right? But to intertwine it into a story with ninjas, that's completely different, right? Yeah. And hence the title, right? Ninja Witch. But the thing is that it's also not the only factor, right? Like that's the thing, is like the magic isn't the only factor about her. She has a backstory, she has a history, and it's hundreds of years. And so that's kind of the catch-22 is like, is she immortal? Right. That is, one of the questions, a couple of us are asking, is she actually immortal and cannot die? Right. And maybe that's one reason why she's going through all these things. See, I told you, there's ideas in there. But that's kind of the thing too, is we also know too, in every immortal story, there's a catch-22 to that immortals. Right. There's a reason why they're immortal. There's a reason why it could be a curse. It could be, something like that. Right. Or it could be from a family history, So
the, when you talk about the family history, obviously I'm not going to share a lot of the details, but in the first book, we have a flashback, the origin story. The key thing we want our readers to understand is Genevieve, NinjaWitch's real name, Genevieve. Her flashback of her as a teenager or 12, 13-year-old is in the mind of a 12 or 13-year-old. How accurate is it?
Yeah.
Right. So will we revisit it? Yeah. But will it be as accurate? And will some of the stuff 90% in line, 80% in line? What does she remember that somebody else might not remember? And if somebody else is still remembering stuff, how are they still alive versus her? And some stuff like that. That's the down the road kind
That's
of
the
thing.
ultimate. We'll
Yeah.
get there.
Yeah. Because you don't want to put everything out there at one time, right?
No.
You want to kind of write it like a series. So this is episode 1, episode 2, and stuff like that.
And that's how I've read it, going through, like, of course I haven't read 4 yet because you only do physicals, so it kind of makes it a little hard. And to me, it's kind of a fun part of the story too, right? It's like there is no digital book, there is you have to get the physical book and read it. Yeah. And it's like the old school days of like going to a comic store, right? You have to go in physically get it, back then. And I kind of like that. A lot of people don't because, there's a lot of collectors, right? They collect just the covers, right? And I'm just as bad, right? There's a lot of my collect too, but I still want to read the story. And so this way it makes me actually open the book. And that's why I always buy at least 2 covers, right? I buy your cover. I buy Joel's cover, if he's on it, or Moggs or who want. And we've got a lot of people on this one too coming up.
Yeah, they're amazing on this one. It's hard to pick.
Yeah,
it is. And especially when you start putting out like little hints like today, right, about the whole, there's a mystery item in the Supreme package.
Yeah.
And you never know what it's going to be.
it's pretty cool, but we're just gonna leave it at that.
Yeah. So it's one of those ones where, and the reason we only put it in that package is those are the individuals who are buying all the antiques. The antique look cover is very. The printer we use has these really cool ones. We got to tour their facility when we went to Arizona, and this one discovered, I like that. I like that. So now we have some new stuff coming up. But they get all those. They get the hollow foils. They get all the, they're getting this whole gamut of covers and items, and it's almost like a thank you. Like, hey, you're investing in us. Here's something back. And I don't think, like, our first ones were these custom katana letter openers, right?
Yep.
They're so cool. Like, how many people get you get a pin or whatever, and we're not knocking anybody else, but we just want to be different. So that when somebody has it, now it's a talking piece, right? And the last one, when we did a Bella Racklin metal cover, which was really cool. Let's get into the metal covers. So we wanted to reward it, but this one, it's something that when the person gets it, you're like, oh shit, this is like part of the story. This isn't just some tchotchke. This is something that's
Not too much.
Oh, no, it's not too much. But what I'm saying is, like, the first one, there's a katana, and the katanas are in the story, right? The second one, it's a messenger bag, but whatever. But this one's something, when you look at it, you're like, oh, I never thought about this, but oh my gosh. Because then when you go through the books, you're like, oh, what the hell? It's that cool of an item.
It might be something that I actually have an idea of what it is, but I won't say it here.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. If you message me and you're right, I'll give you a piece of OA. But I don't think you can get it.
Yeah, it's pretty unusual.
Yeah, it's out there.
Yeah, and fun.
I like that. That always makes it fun.
And then we have the mystery cover. We did it last time, and last time the mystery cover was a hollow foil of the Goth Mermaid. And this one is a surprise also, and it's, you have to add it on. And we try to keep stuff fairly fiscally reasonable for people. We realize, that there's a lot of Kickstarters to choose from. There's a lot of comics to choose from. There's movies. There's everything else. We want them to, when they get these, they open the package and they find it unique and special. Like talk about the card from last year.
Oh, yeah. So we sent out a handwritten card,
Mm-hmm.
which somebody who gets on Kickstarters regularly and supports Kickstarters. We haven't seen that yet. So we thought it'd be fun to do the handwritten card. He drew the cover of it. We don't have any right here to show, but
We have the OA
where?
in the closet.
Okay, well, we'll get that later. But every single card I hand wrote. It was not copied or anything. So it, just something different. We did the wax seal on that was fun. I enjoyed doing that part. That was a lot of fun.
I enjoyed that because nobody's done that ever. Like even in the 90s, right? Nobody did that back in the 90s or the 2000s either. So it's kind of a cool throwback to the old days, right? Of like where in the 1800s, 1700s, people would wax seal it and they put their stamp on it. It was their stamp because it was
It's a lost art writing.
It is
cards and letters and.
Well, and
there was some cramping involved.
Well, there was also a certain individual who would sign them, but she wrote them upside down, so we had to throw those cards out.
Oh,
I did. And there was just so much. It's like so many I was doing, and then I'm like, yeah, they got mixed up.
I'll be right back.
You getting it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a fun little piece y'all added into. It's like I'm looking at it, I'm like, I bought his cover, right? Of that one. And I'm like, and then you get the card too, and you're like, it's kind of a good a compliment to it, right? Like it's a little matching piece to it, and it's something that's specialized.
We had thought about using that as a cover, actually, Belladonna there, because I really liked that piece that he did. I thought it was really cool, and then when he came up with the card idea, where are you showing those?
No,
oh.
So here's the card.
Yep.
And then we put on the back the Mythos logo and the NinjaWitch logo and hand wrote them. But this was the design, and it's all pen and ink, and the black it's all ink wash and everything. So, oops, trying to get the glare out of it. But yeah, we try to do stuff that's unique, and then one of the items that's an unlock, which we haven't showed yet, but it's an unlock, and if we get there is coasters. And the logo or the symbol on here is what NinjaWitch has on her belt. And then we did show this one, I think.
Yeah, you sent a picture of that. You posted a picture of it.
Yeah, so it's in the book. There's a bar scene, and we have this sticker that, if we get to it, is the Old Ball Moose Tavern in Tortuga, Haiti. It says I got sloshed at the tavern. So really, it's a sticker. It's like a vinyl cover though. It's
like a real thick one. It's a
it's a really good quality sticker.
And it's straight out of the book. That picture, our new interior artist drew it. Nick Capone colored it.
Yeah.
Jared Katz. Let me throw his name out there.
Well, and this one is, I would say for the most part, they've been PG-13. This one has, it's a pirate town, so you're going to see stuff that you don't see other places.
There's boobies.
But we did it because it's part of the story, right? It's not just to do it, right? It's not a TNA book. But it's the environment. It's what it was.
And it's not NinjaWitch. She will never, throwing that out there, she will never be naked.
Well.
Ever.
She has to be naked to change.
Not in the book.
Oh. It will be assumed that she did.
Yeah. But there's a lot of character development in this one. There's some interesting stuff. I did sneak in Izzy, our dog, and my old dog, Philly. They make a guest appearance in this book. And then in the last book, in book 2, we had a tier or a level you can add on to be part of the book. And in book 3, Tony Anderson, Dave Viverito, and Haley Anderson all made an appearance in book 3. There's a scene where, for fun, I threw Dave and Tony as cameos in the background. So they get, and it's part of the script that says, put these 2 guys in here, and I added pictures of them so that we can put them in there. We just think it's it's fun. It's a nice nod.
It's again something
It's
that
fun.
we have not seen yet in a Kickstarter.
I've only seen it once, and that's Wendy Shaner did it for Naughty Fairies.
Okay.
And we're talking like years and years ago. But back then, right, you had to win a contest to get into a book.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't something that you could just buy as a tier, right?
Right. Well, what we also did was, so like Tony, we'll just use Tony as an example. He got 2 free books and printed on it as Tony Anderson edition. Like that's 1 of 2 and 2 of 2. That's it, you know? So he can put them on the shelf and, hey, these are, I'm in the book and here's this.
Yeah.
And since you and I were both part of Sworn Nation, Dave Viverito's part of Sworn. So Tony's part, because his last name is Anderson, I used some philosophical quotes from the movie The Matrix when they're talking to Mr. Anderson, and they kind of tied it in there, which was kind of fun. I use a lot of philosophy, and there's a lot of real quotes in these books that makes people, oh, I've heard this before. Yeah, go research it. It's out there. But with Dave, there was a part where we actually wrote Brian Polito and said, hey, I want to write this into my book. Are you okay if I use this phrase? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. So we saved the email just in case anybody argues. But there's a part where NinjaWitch says to Dave, and I'm going to paraphrase, it's like, are you with us? Will you swear allegiance? And he goes, I am sworn. Yeah. So it was just kind of a nod to Brian for all the help he's given us of being a tutor and a mentor and giving us some sage advice as we built this little company and stuff like that. So just as a tip of the hat to Sworn Nation. And actually in this book, you can see Tony, he's got a little coffin pin on his shirt. So, yeah.
Is he, and that's, I want to pull back the thread on that a little bit, right, with Brian. Mm-hmm. Brian has been doing that with several people over the years, right? Like helping people throughout the ages. Like, I mean, I've been working for Ethereal for almost 2 years, and he's been helping Dustin out on that side as well. And it's not, he's one of the busiest men I've ever met in my life, right? As far as he does, but he still takes the time to do that and try to teach people and things. And so I've always been appreciative of that with Brian. I mean, I've known him since the 90s and Chaos days. Right. So it's a big change, right, in our industry today where you see a lot of people don't want to help up and coming, right? Yeah. And then you've got people like Brian who wants to do it, Billy Tucci who does it, you know, and those industry standards from the independent side are willing to go that mile and do it. And so I'm just appreciative that he's always doing that for you guys.
Oh yeah, he's been a huge help with us. Like at the beginning, helping us just figure out Kickstarter,
tiers,
pricing, the book.
Yeah.
Really.
Oh yeah,
pages.
The first book was supposed to be a lot bigger.
Yeah, it's gonna be like what?
128 pages.
Ain't nobody gonna buy that book.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, don't do that.
And it's been one of those things that, like, we still charge for shipping at this point. We're not at that point yet because we don't have the volume, right? Like Ryan's doing,
thousands
of books, right? We're doing 500 or 600 combined, right? Between all of them, we can't absorb that cost yet. We would love to get to a point where you pledge and you don't have to pay for it. But what we do is we do the shipping in-house, and we know that the average is between $5.89 and $6.30. So we do a $6 flat. And that's just for the shipping. So what people don't realize, and let me pontificate on this a little bit, is I have bubble wrap, I have tape, I have the stickers, I have the Gemini cover. We have the bags, we have the boards, we have all this stuff that goes into that, right? So when we're saying we're charging $6 and it comes out to $5.89 and people are like, oh, you stole 21 cents. No.
Wow.
No, I still lost money. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, again, we're not buying this in tens of thousands like Brian's getting or others who are doing them, right? Or whatever. We're buying them. We're shipping them here from the kitchen table. And, we're putting Gabe, my stepson, we're putting him to work. He gets paid. Don't worry, people. He gets paid well. But we do it ourselves. So, when a book is $24 and you pay $6 for shipping, or it comes up to $31, right? We're not flipping this stuff. It's because we still have to pay for interior artists, colorists, all the cover artists, right? We have to pay for the lettering, the design. We have to pay for the print. Like, at the end of the day, we aren't doing this to
make money.
Yeah, we're doing it because we love
this is a passion project for us. It's something that we can do together. Especially being that I'm not of the comic book world.
She was careful. She almost said she's not a nerd.
No, I did not. I would not say that because I am in that world now.
But it is. We're we have fun, and if we break even, we break even. If we go in the hole a little bit, but we're still turning this out. Like book 5, I'm so happy. The 2 big names that we're adding to our covers is Ariel Diaz. 3 names: Ariel Diaz,
Sun
Kumanaki, and Simon Bisley.
Oh, I'm going to kiss you. Simon Bisley. Well, the reason is Simon's one of my favorite artists, right? It has been for years, since Lobo days, way back when, in the DC era.
Do you see? Whoops, shit! Right there.
Uh-huh.
That's my Lobo original art from Simon.
Yep. I actually had
fangirled so hard at Rose City Comic Con. It was embarrassing.
Not embarrassing.
No.
Not embarrassing at all. I was like, oh my gosh, you're Simon Bisley. And she's like, what is it? I said, that big box of all the heavy metal covers I have? Those are all his.
Yep.
And we were like, I was like, hey, just out of curiosity, would you be interested in doing a cover for us? Here's our story. I gave him like the quick 25-second elevator pitch. He's like, yeah. I was like, what? What? Yeah. How? And I was like, don't worry about it. He's like, you want to do it now? I was like, we're in book 4, but it's already set, but I can get you in book 5 in February. He goes, yeah.
First he said, why wait?
He said, why wait? Pay me now. I was like, sure. So then we walked down the aisle, and then that sketch cover was sitting on his table. And I looked at her, and I was like, oh my God, it's a Simon Bisley original.
No,
and she's
like, no, first it was
I was very calm.
Oh my gosh, I really want that.
Dude, I would have freaked out.
I don't want to pay for it. I don't know. Should we pay for it? Should we get it? And I was like, dude, just get it. Just get it.
Before you could say it, you're like, just go. I was like, poof. I got it. And then I messaged his partner. I messaged Chloe, and she was like, yep, Simon's on board. We've already made payments towards it. And we haven't even seen the sketches yet. But like, to your point, Nathan, I've been reading this guy since I was 18, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now he's doing a cover. And folks, we're not going to make money on this one. I don't care. Like, I feel like Rick Gervais. I don't care. We got
a beastly cover.
Fucking cover. Part of my French.
Oh yeah, dude, I'm with you. Because I got to meet him 2 years ago here in Dallas, and I about lost it because I brought my Lobos back, original cover, right? And I'm like, dude, will you sign this? And he drew on it. He remarked it for me on it, and I'm like, and I'm doing the same thing he did. Yeah, he freaked out too. It's the same way, like, because oh
yeah, he created, like,
I know.
She doesn't get it, man.
Oh yeah.
But again, that's why, because I am not of this world, of the comic book world.
Well,
but
you are now.
I'm learning.
But like that so, and for this book, the Mike Crone.
Oh my gosh.
Like, I went up to him at Swornfest, and I was like, hey, Mike, are you busy this next year? He goes, well, I said, remember how when I started this book, you asked and you said you were busy? Well, you just hesitated, which means you're not busy. So can I get a cover from you? He's like, oh, you're persistent. Yes. And then he sent us the thumbnail.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the funny part about this. He sends us the thumbnail and we're like, oh my God, this is like, yes, do it. Right. So then Joel Gomez messages because Joel's already contracted to do it. Right. So Joel's like, hey, what's this? And I send him the script. Right. And here's what's going on. So he sends the thumbnail and I was like, sorry, Joel, Mike already did that idea. You got to come up with something different. He's like, damn it, I got beat by Mike. He was pissed off. And he was like, next time, let me do it first. But it was just so cool that the two of them were like, ugh.
We get good artists,
yeah.
I think.
Oh, yeah. And they're good people, too.
You can get Joel Gomez's art as a tier.
Yeah.
With the original thumbnail and sketch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a lot of his for that reason.
Yeah.
Because, just the way he does. And it's kind of cool if you ever look at his OAs, right? A lot of the time, they're two-sided or two-sided OA.
Yeah, yeah.
Because he'll sketch on one side and then he'll say, okay, I like it. I flip it over and then he actually draws it again.
Yeah. That's kind of the way some of mine is too. Like I'll sketch it and then I'll use that as a carbon onto the other one. So you kind of redraw over it and stuff like that. So
well, what Joel this last time too, he started out doing the cover and then he realized what was too dark. The paint was too dark or something, or not dark enough.
The hue didn't work right, and he drew Belladonna slightly wrong.
Yeah.
So he redrew the whole thing. We only paid for the original art, and he sends us everything.
He sent us both.
Yeah.
So that's what we're like. Hey, if you
up.
want it. Yeah, so that's why it's a cool price, right? You get his thumbnail, that, and the original piece before he changed it. So you get the original.
Yeah.
Right? And the books. And Joel's such a good guy. We did in book 2, we did commemorative prints.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, all right, these are 13 by 19. So I was like, hey, Joel, can I get you to sign these? We're going to number them, and we want them to be signed. We want them special. So he was like, yeah. So I mail them to him. I get them back, open them. I'm like, holy F. He drew a remark on every single one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't ask. And I didn't pay him. I was like, he just signed them for free, right? And I gave him some so he could have the Joel Gomez edition. But it was just I don't know how to say it. And it's Joel has become, from me being a fan of Joel's to I'm a friend of Joel's.
Yeah.
And then this knucklehead sees some of his stuff and she's like, ooh, I have to have it. And next thing you know, I'm spending $70 on a bookmark.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. I have a ton of those for a reason.
Oh, get that one. Get the new one. So in book 3, when he did the cover for book 2, he added a bookmark. We turned it into a sticker. Yep. We're not doing that with this one, but when he sent us the OA, he sent us a NinjaWitch original.
Yeah.
Book. He just throws all this stuff in, and it's at a point where it's we have certain artists that we want to just be permanent staples on the brand, and you can't go wrong with the Joel Gomez. His style is so unique, and it just plays into the character so well. The intensity in her eyes there and everything. It's I love it. I love it.
And that's every year. Me and Joel we do a huge Christmas giveaway with him, and he actually draws a cover for me, right? And we give it away to anybody, right? That's a comic collector for my channel.
Right.
But then I also open it up to all of Sworn Nation as well, right? And it's because it's a Gomez, right? Everybody's part of the Gomez fanatics, right? We all are. But that's kind of thing he's just that good. He's that kind of guy. He has, and I don't know how fast he could do these things. Literally, that dude busts out covers in a day. And I had him on here a couple of weeks ago, and he just said, and I'm like,
yeah,
dude. Come on.
Well, for me, I say this, so Joel, if you see this, I mean this with the utmost respect, but your art style frustrates the shit out of me because it's so loose. And I, when I draw something like that, for me, it's wrong. I can't draw that loose and the fluidity that he has in his drawings. Mine have to, this line better touch this line and the better touch, there has to have this connection to it. Otherwise, I feel like I'm sloppy. But he does it, and you see him doing the sketch. I'm like, what the hell is that? Oh, okay, that's cool. And that's how we have a bunch of them on the wall in here in the studio. It's just his art style is so cool. And I've tried to, I think I can. Nope, I can't. I don't know how he does it. So it frustrates me because as an artist, like I could do a lot of different styles, and I have, but when I see that, I want everything to touch, and I want the colors. Like he colors out of the lines. I'm like, did you fail first grade? But it works because it's his style,
It's his style. It's always been his style. And but I tell you what's funny is if you look at his old work that he used to do, right, in DC, and in Top Cow, completely different than what he does now, right? It was so like refined and into those lines, and I think that's the fluidity he didn't have before, right? Like he wasn't able to really do everything he wants to because he wasn't in control of everything of the lot because he was doing a lot of backup work at that point, So now that he's actually artist full force, he's going to do whatever he wants to do, and it looks damn good, and I appreciate it. Because it reminds me of an old Western, right? Like how Western books used to be drawn. In the 80s and 90s, right? You'd get these little stories, like Lonesome Dove and things like that, right? They would have just a quick sketch in a page, and they would be similar to that style. So that's why when he does anything Western, I'm like, dude, I want it, like he did Lady Gunfighter. And it was freaking awesome just for that reason.
Yeah, he's super dynamic. The other one we have that Bella Racklin has signed on to be a permanent cover artist.
Who also gives like extras with her OA.
Yeah.
She's been fun.
And she's another one that's frustrating because I look at her OA and I'm like, how the hell do you color this?
And we watch her reels on like Instagram and stuff where she just like so effortlessly colors.
She just like drops this little like orange line here and like the character's blue. Next thing you know, the orange line's not there anymore. It's a tint. I'm like, fuck it. I'm not even going to try. So
she's so good. She's so good.
That's how it was for me at Fan Expo when I was watching Sabine, work on stuff. Like Sabine, it just flows out. I'm like, holy crap. That's a whole different animal.
Yeah. I'm not a colorist. I hate coloring. So,
but you're doing it.
Well, I am, and a certain Nathan has 6 pieces, and I have to color every single damn one of them.
Yes, you do.
But everybody, people say I do good, which I appreciate. But it's a challenge. It's more of a challenge for me to color something. Like I've done Chaotica 3 times for you on this piece, and I don't have it the way I want it. So,
which is why you can't draw like Joel because you're a perfectionist.
I don't know if I'm a perfectionist. I'm more of a perfectionist. I want to have a certain feel to it and a certain look to it. And if it doesn't have that look, I'm like, So
that's also why it's a challenge. That's why I challenged you, right? Is to try something different.
Is good. You need that.
Yeah, but I love doing the Satanist. Satanist.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the background, I drew that one. And then I masked it all off, and the background's a spray paint, the red.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Because if you do it with markers, you end up with marker streaks.
Yeah, the streaks.
Yeah, so I was like, all right. So I got Frisket out, and the Friskets are like $8 a sheet. But I was like, I have to get it this way. I don't want to do it another way, so I have. You know what I mean? It's like. But it's been teaching myself. And then I watch a lot of other artists and their YouTubes and reels and all this other stuff. Like when they're doing stuff and I'll like freeze it. I'm like, what the hell? Why are you doing that? And then I watch, I'm like, oh, okay. And then I'll try it. And then one doesn't look like the other one because it looks like totally like 2 different people colored them. And I'm like, well, I can't do that because it doesn't fit with the other 5. You know what I mean? Because it looks totally different. It looks like somebody else drew it. So, but
that's why I like to challenge you for that reason.
Yeah, no, it's a challenge, Nathan.
Well, especially, I mean, as you said, you say you don't do good colors, and I say the opposite. I think you do very good colors.
I agree.
But the thing is like if you don't do good colors, then you should actually color more, right? Because then that actually makes you better as a colorist.
Which is what he's been doing with all of his covers for NinjaWitch. They've
all been analog except for the mystery cover.
But
this current mystery cover is not analog.
The last The last mystery cover.
Both of them. So the last mystery cover I drew, and then CC colored it. And on this one, I drew it, and Nick colored it.
And your covers for the first book. First two books were not colored. But after
book 3.
The last book and this book, anytime he does a cover, he's...
I don't know. I have an idea.
He's working.
I got a really cool idea for a cover for book 5. And there's no way I'm going to be able to color it unless I start tomorrow.
Well, I tell you, I kind of like seeing how you had Nei come in, you know, for Mike's on this book. Nei does great colors. I mean, you might have her do your colors.
Yeah, we've talked about it. She's got a lot of stuff lined up. I have some colorists who I've worked with who just they understand me. So, and that's the thing, right? So when you work with a colorist or a penciler works with an inker, you get to know how they do it. So you draw your style to match their style also.
Yeah.
Right. So like I did a piece for Ula, and Ula Moss colored it. So I was able to draw one way, but if I drew it for another one, I'd have to show where all the blacks were.
Yeah.
Right. And then like Sanju, I can draw something and be like, Sanju, I want the light from here, here, here. And then he'll do it. I'm like, no, change it like this and then intensity over here. And he does it. It's great. But I've done some stuff where I sent it out and the colorist is like, here it is. I'm like, can you change it? They're like, nope. I'm like, all right, we're not working with you anymore. Exactly. Another one who's fantastic with color is Hedwin Zaldivar. His colors are so intense, which works well for the NinjaWitch for the magic.
Who
and stuff.
Colored Eduardo's?
Sanju,
yeah.
Sanju.
He's good.
Nimingun. Yeah, so it's a lot of that. And then what we're working already on book 5. We already told about the covers, but we also have once book 5 is done, we have a trade paperback, which will be it's fairly easy, right? Because you just put them together. But we will also have an omnibus that will feature all of the covers in it, all of the story. It will have an 8-page built-in ash can at the very end of it. It'll have the behind the scenes of designs, like when I designed the
costume.
Well, the costume, but remember the motorcycles from the first one?
Oh, the motorcycle.
The hover bikes that they had. So all the designs for them, their armor, the designs for the kaiju that's in book 1, all of those things will be added to it, and the map will be added into that, and some extra stuff.
Fun little stories for. I'm gonna put those in there. Right?
Yeah, like it'll have like So in book 1, if you haven't read it yet, you're behind the power curve. No spoilers. Go get it. But book 1, we introduce Amelia Earhart. So we explain to like how did we come up with that story of Amelia Earhart and why did we tie it into that, right? So stuff like that. But it's like 400 pages, and it's supposed to be right now. The design is to have it leather bound with the Simon Bisley cover.
Yeah.
And then and then the other part is if you buy the omnibus, you get put into a pool, and somebody's getting some original art from the covers, not from me. You might win a Mike Crone. You might win a Joel Gomez cover. You might win but you're going to get real original art. That's a couple $100, maybe $1,000 worth of art by going into it. Again, it's a cool lottery, right?
It is.
Like the giant Michael Crone movie posters that we have. One of them got mailed out to a person because we hit 50 backers. So we can't tell. We know who because we packed it. But a certain individual is going to be getting this giant box out of nowhere and has no idea it's coming to their house. And they're going to be like, what the hell did I not order? And we have a little card that says, hey, thanks for backing it. Here you go. So.
And that's, I think, the difference for you guys versus a lot of other Kickstarters, right? Like, you guys put these nuggets of fun, as I call them, right, into these Kickstarter where you can win something like an OA, you can win a poster, you can win, something additional, not just like, where like in Coffin, right? In Coffin, they give you X amount of like metal covers, right? Like, so many people are going to get that. So many people are going to get a special edition of something, right? Where like that's a kind of given. You don't know what you are going to give to people. Like we, as the consumer, right? We don't know what you will give us, and that makes it fun, right? Like it's just trying to be a part of that, because it kind of makes you part of the story, right? Like you are integrated into that part of, like, you've invested into the story and you're getting something back from it. And it's not just the book, you're getting something else. And it will incite you to come back to the next book, right? Because you won this thing. But at the same time, it's also a reward for just supporting the book. And a lot of people don't do that. Like I do a lot of Kickstarters. You guys know that. I mean, I do everything from Zenoscope to Coffin, Ethereal. I mean, probably anywhere from 5 to 10 a month.
Wow.
Right. And not a lot of money in every one of them, but you know how it is. But the thing is, like, you try to support the ones that you enjoy. But we don't get a lot of that, right? You don't get a lot of the kickbacks like you guys do. So I will say I appreciate it, anytime I get something. And I know all the other people that support it, they enjoy it too. So thank you guys for doing that for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And we want the stuff to be of quality. Like I'm holding the pen, right? The NinjaWitch pen. Like it's not
a Bic.
Yeah, it's not a Bic, right? It's metal, man. This is I think I paid like $2.79 a piece for them, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you buy 700 of them, right, it adds up. And we have a box of them, right? We give them away at shows and stuff like that. And then randomly, like, it was part of book 1, book 2.
1 and 2.
Yeah. So now we have them. So periodically we'll stick them in somebody's thing, right? And we're like, hey, here's an extra pen. We thought you might need it, or stuff like that.
We try to think, like, what would we want? What would we put up in our house? What would we use?
So, like, for me, I tell you, I would like is a coin, a NinjaWitch coin, right?
Wow, that's third person.
I know. We've actually been told that a couple times recently.
Because most of us are coin collectors, right? And not just from Coffin, but like military, the rules. You always had a coin on you no matter what. Hell, even in the shower, you had a coin with you in the shower.
Yep.
You had that one guy who would just like drop it right in the floor.
It was hard to hide, but yeah.
Yeah.
But book 5 is coming, so book 5 is going to be a fun book. Unfortunately for me, it's not a short book, because I got a lot of shit going on in this book, and
but it's a fun ride.
It's definitely. So book 1, I started it to have a feel of like a James Bond meets Indiana Jones. It's just like right into it, right? And then book 2 kind of slows down, but it has that explosive powers, and you're kind of learning stuff, and you're like, there's not a lot of magic, but there's just enough to know that she's got some powers. And book 3 kind of opens it up more. Book 4, there's a little bit more, but it's different.
Yeah.
Book 5 is like Fast and the Furious meets Mission Impossible meets the Untouchables meets, like, it is just, it's intense. It's got some moments where you're like, okay, whoa, what the hell? Oh, okay, oh, what the hell? It just keeps going. And it gets to a point where, if you remember in book 1, when she had the flashback to the islands where the kaiju was, everybody's fighting, and she opens the portal, and she enters with her first statement was, now it's time to end this. And she just, right? That battle has not even a freaking this to what I have in book 5. Book 5 is just, it's over the top. It's a big book, but it has to be big. Like, we're not limiting and saying, oh, every book has to be 28 pages. Every book has to be. This book is going to cover the story to get you back, to bring it full circle. And if it costs us more to make it, it costs us more to make it. but we want the reader to be hooked, like you were saying earlier. So when you read it, you're like, wow, this is a hell of a story. And then what you're going to end up having to do, because I put enough Easter eggs in through all the other ones, you're going to have to go back and read it and have that Sixth Sense moment of like, wait, what the hell?
Yep.
So, which I love weaving that into it. And I showed her last night. The way I do it, we come up with a story. I write it in like a paragraph kind of thing with like bullets.
Mm-hmm.
And then I say, here's how the scenes are going to be. And then I have to take and say, this scene is going to be so many pages, right? And then I say, okay, because in my mind, I'm like, it's got to be this long. And then I have to take each page, and then I have to do the panels, and I have to do the angles and stuff. So I try to see it like, if I was to watch a movie, how would I want this to play out? Right? Because I've read some comics and you're like, well, this is boring as shit, right?
Yeah.
You know, and then you get it and you're like, I just spent $4 or $20 or $30 and I could have skipped this book. We want every page means something. Every time they say something. And like when you read book 4, you're gonna be like, what's the significance of this scene? On book 5, you're gonna understand the significance of that scene. And I think good movies like Tarantino does that a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Like when you watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the first 2 hours, you're like, what the fuck does this have to do with this whole thing? And then you watch the last 30 minutes, you're like, holy shit, all that meant something.
Yep. Especially like you watch Kill Bill Volume 1 and Volume 2, right? Like,
yeah.
There's a lot of pieces in one that ties into 2. And at the end of 1, you're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
You know, and it just stops and you're like, okay, and then it picks back up. But that is, you know, there's little Easter eggs and those hooks within the book, right, is what makes a cohesive story. And having that cohesive story is what enables the reader to come back for more, right? And that's the big thing. Like for me, when we have a new Coffin book comes out, right, I will go read that Coffin book. But then if there is something before it, right, like if it was, you know, like part of the 3-book, 4-book, whatever crossover, I'll go back to the other books and read through those again to see, did I miss something?
Right.
And even better is like in the old days, right, it says you have a little box. Hey, go see issue blah, blah, blah for this, right?
Yep.
And you go back and you look and you read that and you can tie all of it together. Because there's things you'll miss. I don't care how good you are, you can miss something in a comic book. There's always something you can miss inside of a story if you're trying to read through it too fast or if it doesn't have the hook that you usually want with it.
Yeah. Do you find yourself sometimes like you read a book and you're like, you're reading the lettering, right? You're reading the word balloons and the narration and stuff, but you're also looking at the picture. So you miss like a part of the narration and you end up like, you're up here and then all of a sudden you're looking at that picture down here and then you go back and you miss a part and then you have to go back and read it. You're like, wait, what did it? And then you're like, oh, wait, they did mention this. And I think that's a challenge with a comic is there's so many things coming at you that like in a movie, you see it as it unfolds, but in a comic, you can kind of skip ahead. So like when I do this, sometimes Amy will be like, oh, do you want to show that now? I'm like, yeah, no. Do you want me to show it now?
And I say no.
or I write the whole damn thing, and then once it's written, she's like, "We need mermaids." I'm like, "I wrote the whole story. Did you put a mermaid in there? No.
Did you ask me?
And then see, like, do you want mermaids? Yeah. How do you want them? How do you want them? I don't know. Well, what would you put? Goth mermaids? Then make goth mermaids. Okay, I'll write goth mermaids. Then I have to rewrite the story to still get where I wanted it to be, but to take her.
Okay, you know what? You can't be on the ocean and not have freaking mermaids.
If you have pirates, you have to have mermaids.
But we didn't do mermaids to typical mermaids. I think we did them really cool.
See, and I actually like that. Like, not the stereotypical Ariel Little Mermaids, but, you know, like the true mermaids, like the ones that actually kill you, right? Like, drag you off the boat and, you know, same way with sirens and, you know, those kind of things. You know, those kind of stories are always fun.
But they were fun to write.
And like talking about the book, right? I actually have to read a book a couple of times typically, because I usually do miss something, you know, looking through it. But my favorite ones is that don't have any dialogue, right? The story is just a visualization story, right? And I've seen a couple of books like that where, like, literally the guy's walking through whatever, and there's no dialogue in the whole book, and at the end he says shit, and all he sees is a bunch of zombies, and he's like he's been through the whole story, and he's lived and did everything, and then he dies at the end. It's like, I love stories like that.
I think that's a balance, though, because what we try to get feedback. So when people read them, we want them to go to the Mythos Comics Facebook page
or Instagram
and Instagram and send it, because Amy reads all that, right? And we asked for reviews, and I think it was after book 2, I got a review, and I just read it, and it was a kick in the sack, because it was basically like, I kind of think I know what the character is going through, but you wrote it in a way where what I think might be wrong. So what is she thinking? So it's like, you know what? That's kind of right. I have to add her thoughts.
Yeah.
Right. There has to be some monologue. So when we did book 3, I added a little bit more of a self monologue of talking out loud, right, to answer questions. Book 4 has more of that, of instead of you just kind of putting yourself and saying, well, what about this? What about that? It's how's the character thinking? And then what I realized was, and I've actually asked Amy, is like, all right, this character, how does this character think? Because how this character thinks dictates how she or he acts in the scene. And then we have to keep a level of continuity to it, right? And then this other character is going to be this way. So they're going to think differently, right? And in book 4, we introduce a couple of characters that one of them is actually going emotionally head to head with NinjaWitch in the scene. And you can see NinjaWitch kind of emotionally break at one point. And it's kind of cool because she keeps all this calm, but then it's like, wait, why did she break? So now I have to explain it in book 5 of why, you know what I mean? And it's a challenge, but I think it's fun. And I think at the end of the day, each book is getting better. And if I could go back, I would change stuff in book 1.
But you live and learn.
Yeah.
It was our first
part
book.
of the process.
Yeah, it was our first book. I have no idea.
Well, and I've seen that too, right? Like where you have the narration blocks, right, within the book, and it's hard. There's a piece there, right? You want to narrate it. Hey, what's going on in the panel, right? Versus what's going on in their head, right? And there's a 50, and you see a lot of that 50-50 kind of like throughout the stories, and you kind of get it, but then it's got to be on those key pieces that she's really thinking about. Like that's where I would include them at, right? Like, what is she doing in this situation that's going to make her think about it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, or having the balloons, right? Like, instead of a speaking balloon, right? Having a dash balloon, right? And showing that, hey, here's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, we did in book 4, there's some times where one of the characters whispers. Right, because you might, like, we're driving down the road and you see somebody doing something, you're like, you idiot, right? So it's these concepts. But the person who's been really instrumental in that is Dave Lentz. He's our letterer and he's the designer, right? He takes this stuff and he puts it all together. But like some of the onomatopoeias that are in there, right? When you look at it and he personifies sounds and everything, he's like, somebody needs to say something in this because otherwise it's empty and there's action here. So I'm like, all right, what would you put in there? And now I've gotten to a point where I'm like, add something that's like this. And he does it, right? But he's come back and he's like, this scene is cool, but I don't understand it as a letterer because it doesn't make sense. So I've taken that part out and I had to send it back to the interior artist. I'm like, I need you to change this, because I need to rewrite part of it, but the way you drew it, it won't work. So you got to redraw this panel, and then we got to put it back in. So it's really a cool team that we're working with. It's not just Amy be like, here's your story, write this, here's your characters, and I'm just do it. They're coming back and forth, and like the colorist, he'll draw something. I'm like, when I write the script, I'm like, the hue for this scene is this. So for all my Star Wars fans, you guys know that when George Lucas does this and he pans from one thing to another,
Yep.
Tatooine has a color hue, Endor has a hue. Every scene has a hue to it, and that relays your emotion. So we wanted the colors to be as much part of that as everything else. So it's a matter of writing it. So when I tell Nick, I'm like, this scene has a lot of blue and green hues. So here's the color palette. And then he'll write it, and then he'll color it, and he's like, "What do you think?" I'm like, it's too dark. Change this over here." And we go back and forth. So we're not just sending it out and having it done. You know what I mean? It's like it's a process that goes on.
But everybody involved too is very receptive to any edits or changes that we need made.
Well, it's because they're vetted in
Except
it.
This one, he's hard to work with sometimes.
I am, because I'm always right.
Very.
But it's because they want a good product. They want to put their name on a good product, right? And Dave has been the only one besides me who's been on every book. Right. So, and I inked the first book, and I will never effing do that again.
Oh, come on. Do book 5.
It took so much time away.
I'm in the middle of doing interiors for a story, and I'm driving myself nuts because I'm doing pencils and inks on the interiors for a different company. And I'm just like, why did I say yes to this? What am I thinking here? So for that wrestling one.
Oh yeah.
And it's just like, why? It's like I'm a
glutton for punishment.
It's like I'm a comic sadist. Sadist, right? Were you self-inflicted?
Mm-hmm.
You were definitely self-inflicted on that one, because I know you don't like the ink, and so if you're doing the inks, they must have done something that pulled you over to do it.
It's a really fucking cool story.
Yeah.
Well,
It's a cool story. And I had it in my head. I'm like, it's going to look awesome. And then I started doing it. I did the first page and I started sketching out the next one. I'm like, oh, it's not what I had in my head. It sucks. And she's like, it looks great. I'm like, no, but in my head, it was like this. She goes, it looks great.
Exactly.
Like, but I wanted to look. And I'm like, all right, fuck it. So I haven't done interiors in 8 years. So, and it's only I think it's 9 pages, so it's part of an anthology, but it's a wrestling thing, and that's all I'm going to say. But it's also a horror, so I was like, wow, these are 2 really cool things that you don't think of working together. Mm-hmm. But when I read it, I was like, and then I was like, hey, I really see this as a Frank Miller-esque kind of art. And he's like, yeah, the only color I want is blood. I was like, oh, cool, black and white. And then you start doing it, you're like, shit, I got to draw this in this style because I can't rely on the colors to make it look good.
That's right.
I'm like, damn it, what did I do? So,
it's like, I'm a huge black and white guy, right? I love black and white comics because of the grays and the hues. You know, like, there is no color, you know,
yeah.
and when you add this little bit of red here and there to it, right, it gives it that effect of like blood, or like, you know, there's something coming in, right? You know, and it's like, those are great ones to do, but I feel for you guys, because trying to do that, the inks and stuff, and making those colors really come out, you only got 2 palettes there, and so it's hard, you know. And I've seen some people using whiteout recently, right, to help out with some of it.
Oh, there's plenty of whiteout on my sheet. I actually drew one on a separate one, scanned it in, used Illustrator to clean it all up, printed it, cut it, and then taped it to the page.
Yep.
So it's creative, but I mean, it's fun. And the best part is, he was like, I worked with the guy before. Matter of fact, he's the last one I did an interior for. And he's like, I said, what's your timeline? He goes, when you get it done, dude. I was like, okay. So it's over on the table. I work on it now and then. And so it's just one of those, it's over there. Actually, it's off the table.
Oh, I know.
On the table, I have a cover for War Corns I'm doing. It's a Western version of War Corns. So Garrett Gunn is like, hey, can you do it like an old 1970s serial, kind of like what you were talking about earlier?
Yeah.
So in my mind, I had a really cool idea, and now I drew it, and I'm like, it looks stupid. And she's like, it looks great. I'm like, whatever.
Case in point.
So here, give it to me. Give it to me. Show it to me. Just that.
See, I like it.
Yeah, it's just not the way I want it. So we'll do it later because I have to do it in color too, and I wanted to have like a watercolor effect to it. And I was like, I'm too much black on it. So I'm probably just gonna use my pencils that are underneath of that, and then color it, and then go over it with the ink on the end, on the backside. So, but it's also time consuming, right? And I don't do any project that's easy.
No.
So, I did the mystery cover for book 4. Took me an hour. I think it was the quickest one I've done. Actually, I regurgitated one of my old pieces from 20 years ago. I was like, oh, I have this idea. And so I took one that I did like 20 years ago for Judge Dredd. And it was a published piece for Judge Dredd, and I modified it. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. I want to take this character and I want to do this. Huh?
Don't give it away.
I'm not giving it away.
We're getting close.
They got to go read all the fucking Judge Dredds and try to find mine. Good luck.
You're getting close. You're getting close.
I did one Judge Dredd. It was like 20 years ago.
They'll find it.
No. Well, now we know who the artist is, right, for the mystery cover.
Well, it says it's mine. So, yeah, the mystery cover will always be from me. So,
he's cheap.
Yeah, I'm cheap labor. But it's so much fun. Book 4, it's out there. It ends on the 22nd.
Next Wednesday.
We just broke $5,000, which again, we're not tracking that, right? It's funded. People are going to get their books. People are going to like it. They're not. To what you pointed out earlier, though, Nathan, is some people print like 1,000 books, right? Yeah. We pick on each one. We pick this is our primary cover, right? And we say this is a primary cover. This is a primary cover for 2, primary cover for 3. So if you buy the hollow foil, we print exactly what's been pledged for, and then 1 extra for our archives. So if only five people get the hollow foil, we print 6. So when you're talking about low runs and you're talking about rare,
yeah,
like you can't get more rare than that, because when we go to a comic show, like we went to a convention the other day, we have books 1, 2, and 3, but they're the primary covers, right? So if you want to get the special covers, you have to get it here or hope that somebody resells it, because we're not printing them again, because we think it's an injustice to people. So,
and that's the thing too, right? It's like most of us won't resell them, right? Because we're kind of finicky like that as collectors. It's like there's, unless you have to like, oh crap, we got a bill, that you got to sell something, but most of the time we keep everything.
Oh yeah, I got boxes of keep everything down in the other room.
I'm looking at a lot of boxes in my office the same way.
So yeah, there's the Mike Chrome. That's part of the Mike Chrome with colors by Nei. It's just a beautiful piece, and the way he did the ships underneath, and they tie into the sky as the inside of her cape,
like a movie poster.
It is. Let me see. All right, so introduce Jarrett. A lot of people might not know who Jarrett is.
I'm gonna let her talk about him real quick. What's up?
I'm trying.
I drank like 2 coffees on a ride home, and I'm halfway done a whiskey or a rum.
It's that time.
It's that time, my friend.
So, how did we find Jarrett? I don't even remember how we found him.
I put a call out for artists.
Oh yeah, he put a call out for an artist, and he responded. We liked what we saw when he sent in the practice sheet. And he has been killing it. Honestly.
Now, when you brought him in, what issue did he start?
This is his first one, book 4. Book 2 and 3 were Gabriel Riarte.
Yep, which I know Gabriel.
First one was Shannon Potras. And so this is his first one, but I tell you, he is absolutely just, I mean, he's a rock star. We can't get things to him fast enough, kind of. I mean, he is just Johnny on the spot. It's amazing. And he's local for us, out of Seattle.
Well, that makes it definitely easy. Same time zone, same everywhere.
Yeah, very easy to work with. He's been great, and it's definitely a different style than Shannon and Gabriel, which is fun. It's a style.
And I've seen a lot of Gabriel stuff because I'm working with him and stuff.
Yeah.
And I love a lot of his style that he does.
Well,
but that dude is so busy.
Yeah, he is. This is Jarrett. He drew that.
See, I love that. That reminds me of like the old days of like Pirates of the Caribbean, of the Crusades and stuff in the 90s. So I think a lot of people are going to enjoy that.
Yeah.
Oh, we can't.
Special treat.
Oh. So let's see. Let's go.
Huh?
I'll hold it.
And you got Nick, which everybody loves Nick.
Nick, yep. Back with colors. There's only one issue that he wasn't doing colors for, and that was Hedwin did the colors for book 2.
Hedwin is just as busy as everybody else.
Oh yeah, very busy. But I mean, seriously, beautiful colors. Justin already commented on it earlier, but his colors are beautiful.
Hedwin? Yeah.
Hedwin.
Yeah. And this is cool. This is just a really cool scene. The thing is, we're not going to tell you who it is or what it is. And I purposely didn't put any letters in there because I don't want you to know what's going on.
I like that. It makes your imagination work.
Yeah.
All right, then you got. All right, we'll just start going through some of these covers. You got cover A's, Bellas.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
And this is the only one you're going to see with NinjaWitch outside of her traditional costume. But what's cool is you can't see it, but like her earring is a trislic, which is the 3-pointed swirl that's on her placard in the front, and then she's got the pentagram as the pentacle rather as the necklace and everything. So she incorporated different aspects of her, and she still has her pouch on the side.
Yeah, Bella knocked it out of the park with this one, and including everything from her normal costume into what she's wearing here.
Yeah, the shaved head, which people from book 1 are familiar with.
Eduardo's.
Yep.
Eduardo, yeah, actually, I found him on Instagram, and I loved his art and thought he'd be fun. And I think he was the first one done with his cover.
He had this one done in May.
Yeah, and Sanju colored it. It's
fun.
I love it.
It's
I
fun.
like it.
And Belladonna's in it too. So
yeah, I thought he did really good with this one.
And I like how the background here, right? You've got the old Japanese style, housing, but then you have the mountain right behind it as well.
Yeah. It's got a simplicity to it, but it's a refined simplicity. She's obviously ready to kick somebody's ass. Mr.
Joel.
Gomez.
Joel.
Oh yes.
So.
Mog.
I love this one.
This one
of all the ones Mog's done, this one is like wow.
This is her 4th cover with us, and it was actually, I think my son said this is his favorite cover for book 4, right?
No, his favorite cover, period, of all of them.
Oh, his favorite cover of all of them. But just the things that she can do with watercolor, like, it's incredible. Like, I love the bottom of it too, where it looks like you're looking through the water.
And there's a shipwreck, and it's like, so we give everybody a concept of the story without giving the full script. We give it like a little synopsis of it, And she took parts of that and she goes, I want to kind of play on that. And we're like, go ahead. And this is what she came up with. It's great.
I love the armor, right?
Yeah.
That she has, like the little things like that. Like you can see this was the boat.
Yeah.
There's the mast right there, and it's in the water.
And she kind of still has the costume because she's got the belt and she's got the panel in the front and she's still covered. But like right where your cursor was, you can see like part of her skin's coming through the thigh where it's torn and stuff like that. It's just it's dynamic. This is a really cool, like to Amy's point, it's like you're in a camera looking at it. It's cool.
Okay, yeah, because you can see it's a fisheye lens. Like that's kind of that.
No, this guy.
Nah. Next.
Again,
dime a dozen.
He colored it though. It's not digital. Traditional colors.
All Copic and color pencil.
How was it doing this red? The accents here. How long did that take you to do?
So I drew her and didn't color her. I drew her, then I put Frisket over her, and then I just went to town with the markers to draw it like it was swirling out of an energy field behind her and stuff like that.
Lots of layers.
Yeah, it was about 5 hours to do the background, and then there's color pencil in there. There's a watercolor pencil. I used Gamma Salt oil on it to blend, and then when it was done, I went and drew her, and not drew her, but colored her. And it was cool because I got to put like the yellow highlights from the sides on it and everything like that. So I really wanted the intensity of her eyes, like she's walking forward and there's just this energy behind her. So
yeah, I really like it.
And I like that it's like a different hue, right? Like this is blue. This is not purple.
No.
So that's kind of different too, which I like.
Well, and actually, traditionally, her costume is black.
But Hedwin colored her purple in book 2, and we're like, you know what? She's black in modern time, but who's to say in the 1700s she wasn't wearing purple?
Exactly.
Right. So
so we went with it.
Plus, the costume's a little different. Like the belt's a little different, some other stuff. So it's kind of like Batman, right? It's Batman, but the symbol's different. The pouches are different. It's still Batman. So
I like it. And this reminds me of She-Ra, by the way. This background.
Yeah.
When you think about She-Ra standing in front, like when she changes out, right? It's like, I'm coming to get you.
Yeah, it is very She-Ra-esque. Which I'm okay with because I love She-Ra.
Okay.
It's like her headdress.
Yeah, I get it. There's Mike's.
This is just bonkers.
You say it like that.
Well, you look at mine and then you get Mike's and it's like...
You set them up in this order, sir.
Yeah. Well, if you notice, mine are before and after him.
Yeah.
Like I'm the bread and he's the meat and potatoes and everything.
Just he put everything in it. It's so
well,
pretty.
and like so he's got OBs in there, the black slave, right? The slave from the second book. You got Anne right there, who, for those who haven't paid attention, she's a key part of the second part of the story. And then you got Belladonna up top, and you got pirate ships at the bottom, and a jungle for some reason.
You always have to have a jungle. Period.
You will learn, my friend. You will learn. And then there's Anne. If you look at every cover so far except for the mermaid, this is the only cover that doesn't have NinjaWitch on it. So far. But this is Anne, and this was all, I didn't do any line work for the background. It's all just wherever the markers were, because I wanted her to stand out.
Ooh, is this all colored pencil?
Copic and color pencil, yeah. And I used on the gun, I used a little bit of gouache. But it was fun to do.
I like this one. I like your side profile of it.
Yeah.
Originally, he had a really cool pose though. Like I Loved it. And I'm not saying this one isn't great because it is good. I mean, honestly, I think I love pretty much everything you've done. But the first
She gets paid
one,
to say that, folks.
the first pose that he had her in, which is so cool.
What was it?
Where was she standing?
Oh, she was coming.
Oh,
Yeah, but it looks
so
more like the
good.
NinjaWitch one. Like she's just walking
I know.
forward and stuff. So
It was good.
All right. Then we get to the packages now.
yeah.
So, Ultimate Warrior Collection, 155. So these are where the OAs start.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
That's not bad, folks. 350 for the OA and 2 cover. And the antiquated cover costs a little bit extra too.
Yeah. This is the one that gets you that mystery item. So you get hollow foils, you get antiques, you get the original, the 7 standard covers.
You know, that mystery item, I'm about to start thinking about that one.
When they're gone, my friend.
Oh, I know. Okay, then we've got, okay.
And this is the only place you can get the standard antique and hollow foil of mine.
Ah, okay.
So,
And 525 with the OA, that's still not bad, folks.
yeah.
I paid more than that for Justin's work.
Yes, you do. I won't tell anybody. And then this one.
This is the bonkers one.
Yeah, this is the it's right here actually. So to your point where he draws on the back of the front, here's this part and then this part.
Yep.
And then here's his original sketch.
Ooh.
I'll turn it so you guys can see it without the glare.
And again, he drew on
And
the
then
back.
There's the back he drew on it. And then, right? And he writes, first attempt trying different mediums for color combos. We left his posted on here for whoever gets this.
And just think about that, right? For that price, $625. That's a colored OA, not just a penciled OA, right? Like even pencils typically go for $4 to $6.
Yeah, well, you get all of it, right? You get the whole thing plus the books.
Yeah, that's a phenomenal deal.
Yeah, if you're a Gomez fan, that's a package for you.
Or if you're friends with a Gomez fan and you want to get a great Christmas present.
Oh, Christmas is coming up. Good
You
thinking.
never know. You never know what I'll buy.
TikTok.
All right, let's see.
But yeah, $625 is a steal on that.
I've paid more. I'll just say this. I've paid more for a OA with just the bare bones, right? That bare bones penciled and ink version than for $625. So
yeah,
that's a phenomenal deal, everybody.
So the print is open, and the print is actually the Moog Park cover, but it's a mini print. We do a mini print for every one of them, but this one is the last one was on silk paper, and this one's a hollow foil print. So everybody's going to get the Moog Park cover as a hollow foil print.
Nice. And then we got sticker, coaster, magnet.
Sticker, coaster. We won't show the other stuff.
Yeah, those stuff still a mystery.
You got to work to it.
You got to get to it, and we'll get there.
Yeah. And I think at 20,000, Amy's shaving her head like NinjaWitch.
What?
We got $20,000. I'll shave it for you.
We'll all do it at the same day. All three of us will just shave it if we get 20,000.
I'll shave the whole fucking thing off for 20K.
I do it every month, so it's no skin off my head.
It'll grow back.
Exactly. All right, and
Okay, so what if that really happened? People are going to actually expect me to do that.
We'll do it.
We'll do it. All right, so you got some add-ons. You got the digital download, right? Got the book. Okay. Book 2. I love this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have the original art hanging up in the hallway.
All I know is I'll say this: if you ever sell it, I want to buy it.
Well, we do have this one.
You're killing me, bro. You already got my wallet already.
That's a trickle, man. That's a trickle. Yeah, and then book 3, we chose Headwinds Aldivar's cover to be the representative for book 3. And then you can get the catch-up collection, so you can get all 3 of them at one time.
And think about it, that's only $20 a book, right? And that's cheaper than some places do for just one book.
Yeah, and then the important thing to remember on that is book 1 is 64 pages. You get the chapter plus the origin story. So it's like getting 4 books.
Mystery cover, 85. There will be only enough of these to print it to cover orders, plus 1 for the archives. So, and now we know that it is you that's doing it, at least.
It is, but I'll tell you what. It is a badass cover. It is. I'm really happy with it. This is the heavy metal edition. It's actually a metal cover on the book. It's phenomenal. It's absolutely gorgeous. We did this with Bella's book on last one, and then and for $100, like that's a steal too. And we only make enough, and each one's going to be individually numbered. So if we only print 4, it'll say 1 of 4, 2 of 4, 3 of 4, 4 of 4. So the lower that number is, right? So you guys want to get in on that now, because when those are gone, we're not making them again.
Exactly. Okay, the antiquated covers, all 3. Remember, you can only get Justin's through his.
Yep, if you buy the OA.
Hollow foil collection. That's a new one. I like this one.
Yeah. I mean, and I think 185 for 4 virgin hollow foils, right? Again, limited. Once we're done, we're done.
They're not made anymore. And that's kind of the thing, right? Is that when you start talking about like made to order, right? A lot of people don't do made to order anymore, right? And the reason why is because they want to get so many copies, to sell at a show, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you've got some that'll do like you guys, they'll only do it to a Kickstarter exclusive, and that's it. And those are actually, to me, what makes it a true Kickstarter, a true reward at that point, right?
Yeah.
You only get into Kickstarter. Now, they might have some leftovers that didn't sell, right? Like during the Kickstarter. But you know what? Typically, you don't sell those. You keep those, right? Unless it's a rainy
we also
day.
don't make them.
Exactly.
Right. I mean, we did it on one of the books where we anticipated X amount, so we have some extra. We're like, that doesn't, to your point, it diminishes the value of it. You're pledging to this. You should have something that has some type of intrinsic value to it. So now so let's say those hollow foils, let's say 4 people get those virgin hollow foils, we'll print 5.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then we put them in the archive, and then 4 people have them. So when they're out in the wild and somebody's like, oh, I have one, and I know who bought them, I'm like, oh, did you buy it from this person? They're like, no. Then it's bullshit.
Yeah.
It's not true.
I mean, and that's the thing is I've seen stuff like that where people sell it after they buy it and they mark it up, by 50%. But you know what? They bought it. That's on them. They can do what they want to. It's a reseller's world now.
Say that again. We've had people come up and are like, are you upset that? No, let them flip it. It's capitalism.
Yeah.
If they bought it for $100 and they sell to you for $400 because you realize there's only 4 of them, you should have bought it for $100.
Exactly. It's all about timing.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen that with all these mystery envelopes that Coffin does, right? Like literally every time they'll flip, even yours flipped. Yeah, I saw yours because I had to buy one of yours off of a flipper just for that reason.
Which is kind of cool. So, like talking about the Coffin ones, like when Brian had me as a mystery envelope artist, I was like, oh man, I'm a mystery envelope guy. Like you think of yourself as like a minor league baseball player, then you realize you're like, wait, the primary books, they make 2,000 of them. There's only 45 of mine.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like people have to go hunting for it. They have to go looking for it. And it's when they have them, and you got like, there's one guy out there, and I won't say his name, but he's always out there looking, and he's like, oh my God, I finally got the hunt collection.
Yeah.
And it makes me feel cool. It's like, wait, this guy likes my stuff. He's out there looking for these specific books, you know, and it's kind of neat. It's fun. But it does make the value to them. Like when I have the artist proofs of those limited ones, you know, they make 45 and I have an artist proof. I put one on here, I only get 3 of them.
Yeah.
Right. So when you talk about rare, like they're rare.
And that's why, you know, when you put your artist proofs up for $250, right? Makes sense because, you know, there's only 3 to 5 of these, you know, like this one. If I could find the artist proof of this one, right, I would have one. Well, I know who, you know, but what I'm saying is like, if I found somebody who had one, right, they would sell it for at least that, right, 200 to 250, because artist proofs are a different animal than a mystery envelope. And it's because those are personally from the artist, right? Yeah. And Mike sells a lot of his that way too, you know, and he gets so many of them that he just sells them like they're water. Right. Yeah. And it's like, and I've bought several because I buy a lot of his art too. And his art is not cheap either.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, this past weekend we had a show, and I did a Halloween Christmas crossover Lady Death a couple years ago, and I had a Brian Pulido edition, 1 of 1.
Yep.
Right. And I already had the artist proof, so I'm like, I don't need this one. So I put it on the table, and the guy's like, wait, what? Is that a 1 of 1? I was like, yeah, and check it out. It's got the certificate on the back and everything. He's like, sold. You know, but it's unique, right? People want that one thing that sets them aside from the other stuff. And then I have people who are like, when are you going to sell the original art from your first Coffin cover? I was like,
never.
I'm not.
I asked that question before. You already told me. No, I'm not.
So I have a Coffin cover from Eric
Henson.
Yeah, when he did the Indiana Jones one.
Yeah, I've got that one.
I have the original art up on the wall because I'm an Indiana Jones fan. And when I saw it, I messaged him directly. I was like, Eric, tell me you didn't sell it. He goes, well, I have it. I said, stop. Did you sell it? He's like, no. I was like, well, how much? He goes, how much you want to pay? So I give him a number. He's like, yeah, cool. Like, absolutely. Here you go. And it's the only, I have a Dawn McTeague also, but that's the only other Lady Death original art I have cover wise. I have a Yolanda original art too, but I'm like cover wise.
Yeah.
Like I had to have it.
Which Dawn do you have?
So you know the one, it's in one of the drawers, but you know the one where Lady Death is like on her knees and she's kind of rocking out.
Oh yeah. That's Jason one of the old ones.
Yeah, Jason Coates has the 11x17. He's like, I got the original art, so I posted. I actually have her 5x7 original approval sketch. I was like, actually, dude, you have the second one.
Nice.
Yeah, she had it at Emerald City Comic Con, and I was up by her booth, and I was like, hey, how much is it? I think it was like $300 or $400. I was like, I have to have it. And it's, 5x7 for $400 or whatever it was. But it's a Dawn McTeague original, and I don't know which drawer it's in. I'm not very
organized,
careful. Oh yeah, that too. With my original art, I have it like all over the place, just stuck in drawers and on shelves.
So AB, if you accidentally find that one, just put it in my NinjaWitch Kickstarter.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
You have the pile over there with your Evil Ernie and stuff too.
I know. I've got a huge pile of stuff with you.
Yeah.
You have the Demon Girl too, right? Oh wait.
The Demon Girl's over there. Yeah, it's in the pile. So
I had to have that one because I have the book. You know, when you put out the book, I'm like, all right, I got to have the original to go with that.
Yeah, for the art of book. Yeah. Which we only have 4 left out of. Yeah. So
when
we're not making anymore. So people will have them. They have 1 of 50. So
are you going to do a volume 2 with it?
At some point. The problem is I have not been very good at scanning some of this stuff. So stuff is out there and I don't have any copies of it. So like I've reached out to some of the people. I'm like, hey, I sent you the original art. Can you take a picture and send it back? But
we'll start. And then, we'll definitely have a volume 2.
Speaking of original art.
I like art. You know that.
There's a chance that somebody who backs the omnibus will win the actual map.
Oh, yeah. You know I'm getting the leather omnibus. That's easy.
So this is a hand-drawn. The bitch part about this was you can't draw on it first and then erase it. So I had to make 0 mistakes when I drew this whole damn thing.
Because it's rice paper, right?
No.
What is it?
It is a so it's a special paper that uses pulp. I don't know if you can see the fabric on it.
Yeah.
It's the same cotton fibers and stuff that they use for like a dollar bill without some of the stuff on it. But and then they use chickpea and they stain it with pinto and chickpeas. That's how you get the stains on it. And then I used a brown rapidograph to draw everything. So there's like all of that. That's a freehand drawing of Africa, my friends.
That's pretty good.
This guy put some time into this, and I'll tell you what, you've never seen an artist sweat when he's drawing and he says, I'm 90% done, please don't fuck it up.
Especially if you do Australia wrong, Haley would hate you.
So I drew.
If she sees it. Okay.
I drew years ago. I drew a thing of Australian on. I wasn't paying attention, and when I posted it, I had flipped the islands on New Zealand, so the small island was on the bottom, and they're like, "Dude, you drew New Zealand upside down." I'm like, "Oh." But this is, to your point, this is the kind of stuff we're going to give away, because the way I look at it, I don't know how she looks at it, but the way I look at it is, what does this do for me sitting on my shelf? Right?
Yeah.
But if somebody's backing the omnibus at a couple $100 because it's leather bound and it's 400 pages, and you get this, what is this worth?
That's worth the whole omnibus for me.
You see what I'm saying? Right?
Yeah.
So
it's the only one.
It's the only one in existence. There's no copies of it, right? We will scan it and put it as part of the thing, right? But like, it's not going to be offered as a print. You know what I'm saying? It's like, but if all of a sudden you get your omnibus and you get a tube with it, and you open this up and you're like, holy shit, I have the actual map of the world of NinjaWitch, which has hidden little things all over it. It's got like, you can't really see it. Where's
this way? This
way.
There you go.
Right
up there.
Carrot corn, right? There's little things that are hidden on here, and people are like, what do those mean? Read the book, dude. Figure it out. Like, and there's little symbols on it too, and all. It's like, how cool is that? You have a chance of winning that, and if I have it on my shelf, it doesn't do a fan any good, right? And like you're talking about, like the Joel Gomez and the Moog Park and my original art. Yeah, it's priced pretty good because it's our way of saying thank you, right? If I make it so it's $3,000, $2,000, $1,500, right? That limits who can get it, right?
Yep.
And if you were to take the whole spectrum of all the people who collect comics, who has $1,200 laying around, right? So
not most people.
500, maybe you can budget for it, right? You can say, I know that this is here, and if you flip it later for more, great, good on you. To your point earlier, but I would rather somebody be able to appreciate the art and have it. Like you have this giant collection of Coffin Comics characters, right? Coming to 6 of them.
Yeah.
Nobody else has that, right? So even what you're paying for, which we have I think it's a very fair amount. When that's all said and done and you have them, the jealousy factor of other people, right, gives you that extra, like, yeah, I have it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I don't know. I like giving stuff away, and it's kind of my problem. Like my what do you call it? My love language is to give gifts. Her love language is to get them. So this is why she has all the purses. But
it's true. But
I like to give stuff to people. I like to gift items. In book 2, I think it was, we gifted out a bunch of. I bought some sketch books and I drew on them and just stuck them in. I don't even remember who got them, but there's 3 of them out there, and whether they liked them or not, I have no idea because nobody ever responded. But there's 3 Justin Hunt NinjaWitch sketch covers floating around, and they're the only 3 in existence. There's no other NinjaWitch sketch covers.
See, that's cool because I mean that's gonna be, there's 3 only. Then these people are freaking lucky, right? Because we all know it takes time to do the sketching, right? And you actually get a sketch cover because you don't even offer sketch covers.
No. And we did black and whites. We stuck black and whites randomly, and the way we do them is, like, I know names. Like, I can see, like, when you pledge, I'm like, oh shit, Nathan pledged for this, right? My stepson doesn't know. So what he'll do is I'll be like, give me a number 1 through whatever. And he gives me the number, and that's who gets the book.
Yeah. And that's good because, I mean,
right.
it makes it easy because I can't say there's preferential treatment.
Yeah.
Right. And so
yeah,
that's how it should be.
Now there is some fun stuff, like Tom Andres. He's a Navy guy. So when we sent this last one, I had a Go Army Beat Navy sticker. I put in his packet for him. So I mean,
and he did comment on that.
Yeah, he did. And like Kevin Kresak, he's out in Massachusetts, and he loves spiders. So on one of them, I drew like a spider, and on this last one, I drew he has some lizards. So I did a sketch on his Gemini, and it's an iguana as NinjaWitch, right? And Brenda Rubin, I did a NinjaWitch cat, like just for fun, and like, a remark on the shipping box. So we pay attention. We want people to feel like they're special. They're just not a number.
Part of the NinjaWitch family.
Yeah. Part of the Chosen.
Correct.
NinjaWitch's clan is called the Chosen. And there's a reason, and if you read book 3 and book 4, you'll understand. But we want people to feel like they're part of it, right? We want this to be bigger than us. So, and we have some really cool plans for afterwards, which we're not going to share until we know what's going on. But like, how cool is it?
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
See,
it's a direction that I'm willing to bet that people can't guess, right? This is like one of those, we're going to pull this out of our ass, and people are like, what the hell happened? We're like, no, check it out. It's going to be awesome. And if it's not, then we'll be like, we were wrong.
Hey, you only
we're
know
going to have
try.
a good time.
All I know is I want to see her do a Blade Runner Cyberpunk era.
Probably not until we get to the future.
Yeah, future.
Mm-hmm.
But there's enough stuff between the 1281 and 2024 to keep her busy now.
Yeah.
And actually,
lots and lots of ideas.
You get introduced to a couple characters in book 5 that you're like, wait, how the hell did that person get with her?
And you kind of got to know history. You got to know your history. You got to, and we do throw names in there so you can go and Google.
Well, and
Google your history.
I'm a history buff.
Yep.
So
as am I.
There's, like, I wrote into book 5 about the prime ministers of England and stuff like that, and some stuff that is factual because this is grounded in history, right? So hopefully, so Michael Crichton is my favorite author, and when he wrote with such detail that I would read stuff. I'm like, did he make that shit up? And I'd have to go research it. And I'm like, oh wow, he has all this facts in there. So that's why, if you remember in the first book, where the messenger ends up with his back broken, that character's name is Crichton.
Yeah.
After Michael Crichton, and I broke his back in the book. But we do have a lot of history in this, and Amy is very much of like, we have to put this in there, and which is cool. It's cool. And some of the stuff, she'll throw a challenge. It's like, we have to make this, and I'm like, I have no fucking clue how I'm going to put that in the story. And then she'll come up with something, and then Gabe will say something. I'm like, oh, I have an idea. And then somehow it works. But we know where the story's going. We have the story. We just don't have the details of the story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we know where the story's going. We have key elements for different centuries and different time periods that are going to happen. But how do we bridge that gap from here to there? How do we go from here to there? And getting some of those, but also tying back to the little nuances and stuff like that. And like I said, like her origin story, Nathan, if you read that again, there's hints in there about stuff. If you read the first book and the second, there's so many hints about what's coming in book 5 that if you were an astute reader, you'd be like, oh shit, yeah, that's what scene whatever is about. Otherwise, people are going to pick up book 5, they'll read it like, this is a cool book, and they're like, well, how did this happen? Well, you got to go back, and I'm telling you, when I say it's a hidden thing, you got to look at the backgrounds, right?
You look at it. Yeah, that's what I kind of do. That's why I have to read it twice, right? Because I look at books that way. I'll look at what was actually said versus what actually shown. And that's a big key component in how to hook the story together, right? And like my favorite game I always like playing was BioShock, right? And it's for that reason. Little hints in BioShock is what keeps you going in that storyline. And you'll play that game for hours and hours. Comics are the same way. The little hooks and little pieces like that keeps you entertained in it.
Yeah, and I got some of that idea actually from some of the stuff that Joel's done, where he, on the back of a building, he'll add a little writing or something. You know, and Greg Capullo is good with that too. He'll draw something, and then like later somebody will reference it, and you're like, what? And you go back like 3 or 4 issues, and you're like, some guy's wearing a button. And you're like I forget which one it was, but he was doing one of the Batman about 4 or 5 years ago. And this guy had a button and it says the end is nigh.
Oh yeah, the Watchmen.
Yeah, and it was like flipping out to the later, and he was referring. Yeah, so he's like tying all these things together, and like you don't catch it. Then you go back and he's like, "Oh, I mentioned it." And to your point, like there's an asterisk, right? And then it's like, see book issue 751, page 6, and you're like, "Shit!" Now I gotta go buy that book and figure out what the hell's going on. So
that was actually one of my favorite DC stories that they've done in recent years, right? Was the Doomsday Clock, and the button tied right into it, you know, with the Flash and the Batman.
Right.
The Watchmen,
the book,
graphic novel.
Yeah, the one that I bought you and you haven't read yet.
Oh, come on!
Started reading it.
She watched the TV show.
I like the show,
which takes place after
the Watchmen.
So as we're watching it, she's asking me all these questions. I'm like, did you read? Well, I looked at it. I
sounded just like me. That was like Danny.
But I think, but it is kind of it's kind of like you look at it. It's a thick book.
It is.
Watchmen's thick. So I think when you look at it, you're like, oh man, if I start here, how long is it going to take to read this? But all those characters, and that I actually, now that you mention, I think that the character development in some of that is how I've kind of subconsciously developed some of these characters. right? Because they're not all like, here's everything about the character. Here's you know, that you learn through back flashes and this person talking, and you're like, this person's talking to another person. You're like, well, what are you even doing here? And then you don't really understand it, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait, you've been in 4 books, and now I know about you? What the hell happened? Like, so I think it's pretty cool that way.
Alan Moore was bad about that, right? Like every story he wrote, Watchmen, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, those are all similar in that same vein. He did the back and forth.
He did what's the one with gods?
Gods and Monsters.
Yeah, he did that one, right? Yeah. So but it's fun, you know. What questions do you have, Nathan, for book 4, book 5, book 12?
So, with number 5, 4 were pretty good. I gotta get is 5 going to be just book 5, or is it also going to be the omnibus and the trade at the same time? Are you going to do those separately?
No, it's going to be a book 5, and then book 5 will be in the omnibus.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna treat them separately.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So book 5, and then when book 5 is out, in the book 5 Kickstarter, you will also be able to get the trade paperback, but the omnibus will be afterwards, totally separate. Yeah, it's not. We're not going to put them together. But
yeah, you will be able to get book 5. The omnibus won't be the only way to see book 5.
Okay. And the reason is I'm thinking about how to plan, right? All of us have to, because I need that leather bound, because I love stuff like that. That's one of my favorite things. Like a friend of mine, Lori, she did a similar thing. It's like a miniature pocket book of 4 comics in black and white, but it's bound together.
Right. Yeah, we're gonna do book 5 will come out. It'll be its own Kickstarter, but in book 5, you can do an add-on of the trade paperback. So you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus the origin story in the trade paperback, because it's easy at that point, right? Because we have all the files. We're gonna wait probably 2 months and then have the omnibus, because you have to build the omnibus so that the pages still align correctly. But we want to put the filler in there, and we want to build the autobiography. We have a forward being done by somebody who's fairly decently well known. That will be kind of neat to add in there, and there's a possibility I might have a second individual, so it's like a double forward. We want to do like mini biographies of the different artists and different creatives, so everybody who's worked on it, even if they've only colored one piece, right? We want to feature them, because at the end of the day, it takes all these different creatives to bring this one product together, you know? And if you look at the books, you got 64 pages, 28, 32, 28. And I think book 5 is going to be in the 70s. So it's a big book. So the omnibus, you're already talking like it's 190 pages, right? And then you got 50 covers, so you're at 240 pages or whatever. And then we have all the background stuff, and then we have an 8-page ash can, kind of an ash can. It's at the end of the book, but the only way you can get those 8 pages is by the omnibus, and it introduces something totally new and cool. That's part of the NinjaWitch world. So it's going to be about 380 to 425 pages. So it's a hefty book. And it's going to be, I think it's 10 inches across. We're doing like 9 inches across or something like that, and whatever the proportion is. So it's not a standard size. And I did research. So we want to do leather bound, but I'm looking at leather bound with a clasp or no clasp. So I mean, it's like you got to play with that, right? And then the other part I was looking at is, one of the places it was talking about for publishing is it's leather bound, but it's gilded. It's gold gilded around the edges. So it's like, we want it to be really unique, not just it's a comic book, you know. We want it to be an experience.
Because even with other omnibuses, right, we've got so many companies that do them, right? And the catch-22 is half of them feel pretty shoddy, right? And a lot of times because the binding's not good, right? And after so many pages, it falls apart.
Yeah.
Like I've bought many Marvel and DC, even Top Cow ones like that. That over the time it just falls apart. Now, granted, there's nothing you can do about that. That sometimes it's just time that happens to it.
Sure, but if
like
you pay,
you get quality. Like that's been our whole thing too. Like he said, with the pen, with the stickers, like we are looking for quality that will last.
So like the omnibus, like if you just do a general omnibus and you have the cardboard and it slides into the box or whatever, it's X amount of money. Our omnibuses are going to cost us about $38 to $40 per book to make. Like we're not doing like, oh, they're $25 a book. No, these are like $50 a book to make. So when we're putting them up there for $200 or $250, right? It's, we're getting some out of it, but there's a lot of work that goes into it, right? I was joking with Dave Lentz. I was like, hey, Dave, I call him Magic Dave because he's right. I was like, hey, man, I know that you've been doing all these books, but I'm kind of like feeding you because when we do the omnibus, I'm going to push you to your limits, you know?
Poor Dave.
And but we want it to be something that when somebody gets it, it's an experience. Like, how does it get delivered? Does it get delivered in a box? Does it get delivered in a wooden box? Does it come in a leather bound sheath thing that you got to pull it out of? Or is it just like, here's a book in bubble wrap? Fuck that.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, seriously, we don't, and anybody can do that. Here's a book. I'm putting it in bubble wrap. I put it in a cardboard box and ship it to you. Or like you're a sports guy. You watch these guys when they get their season tickets, right? It's an experience. You're opening this and like the Vegas Raiders, it plays music and shit. We're not doing that, but we want you to have an experience of getting the product.
Yeah, like I mean, if you had like a little mini crate, like a wooden mini crate, right, that it came in, like something like that would be fun because I've got stuff like that from Germany, right? Because I buy a lot of movies and I buy a lot of stuff from boutique labels from overseas. They do things like that, right? And it's an experience because they know how much you're spending, right? And that just pushes it above and beyond. Like, okay, I'll still keep supporting that even at that cost point, right?
And we don't expect to sell a lot, right? But at the end of the day, it goes. The people who want it will want it, right? And what if it comes in a treasure chest?
Oh yeah.
Right. What if it comes in a leather thing that you have to undo and it looks like a Wiccan, the Book of the Dead where you open it up and it goes here and you have to fold it the right way and it has like a bone that hooks it together. Like we don't know yet. We haven't. This part of my head is so far out there that she's gonna have to reel it in at some point. But again, even if we get to a point where let's say we say the price point is $250 a book and it cost me $150 to make it, I don't care. Right? Because at the end of the day, we're going to get one copy and we're going to, even if I only sell 3 or 4, I don't give a shit. I don't think she cares either. We want the true fans to have this huge experience. So let's say 10 years from now, NinjaWitch is still selling out, right? And everything, then it blows up. Who knows, right? You got in on it and people are like, how the hell did you get this? You're like, oh, well, I'm one of the OGs, bitch. Right?
It's the beginning.
Yeah. So, but again, that's the thing. What is the omnibus? We don't want it to be the standard omnibus. We want this thing to be like, when people see it, they're like, oh my God. And the only way we can present that is to have one made before we do the Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Right. So that first one's going to cost us an arm and a leg because it's a one-off. Right.
As a design. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we can present it. Right. She's got the costume. She's going to be showing up as NinjaWitch. Right. I'm going to show up as the artist and writer who's just beat the hell up. And I'll have like shackles and old clothes on. Woe is me. Please support me. I'm a starving artist. But we'll present it in a way that people see it as an experience. Like you're going to look at it and like, oh my God, I want to be part of that. And then when you're done with that, because of what's included in it, when book 6 comes out, you're going to know stuff that nobody else knows because you got the omnibus.
Because you read the Ashcan and you know what's coming up.
Yep.
And I'm an old school Ashcan guy, right? Like I mean, even today, I still collect Ashcans from Coffin and Chaos and everything like that.
Yeah.
Even the Vampirella stuff, because there were little stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
That paid into the story, the bigger story, and you did not know anything without that story. So I love that you guys are doing that.
Yeah, and then speaking of Ashcan's like a short story. We were just talking, I don't know, yesterday, the day before, of doing a horror anthology through Mythos. So Mythos Comics of not just NinjaWitch, because we have Ruby's Raiders coming up and we have a statue and everything. But it's also, what if we did a horror anthology? People got it, and it's like, think of heavy metal, which is relaunching, which is kind of cool.
I heard that. I can't wait.
But what if we did an anthology where it's like we have some ideas. I actually presented an idea to her about Jack the Ripper. So what if we take these ideas, kind of write them as short stories, and we hire different artists and stuff, and we make an anthology, right? So how do we branch off and we're not just one thing? How do we grow it? And part of that is spending Gabe's inheritance. So
do it.
He doesn't need it. He's fine. He's going to the army. He can build his own inheritance. But
with army funds.
Yeah, with army funds. But what do we? Where do we go? What's the direction? and like Emerald City Comic Con, we got a 20 by 20 booth along with another publisher, and we're splitting it. But like, that's a big booth.
It's a good size. It's
a good size booth, and we're gonna have a lot of stuff there. Amy's dressing up as NinjaWitch. She'll be in full character during it. Nick Capone is actually coming out from New Jersey to be at the booth to help run it and sign stuff and everything. We're just having fun with it, Nathan. We're just having fun. And if we break even, we break even. I don't look at it as losing money.
Because it's something we're doing together. And Gabe's even jumping in and helping sometimes. So it's like a family thing.
But we're creating. And at the end of the day, some of these people, like, I have a full-time day job. I got the army money. I got the disability and the stuff from the army. She works full-time. We're not doing this for the money. We're doing this because we like to create this.
Yeah.
Right. And again,
it's fun.
It's fun. And I guarantee, like, you look at it, I think you showed it were like $5,066. It costs more than that, folks, to make a damn comic book.
Yeah.
So on average, it's $325 a page times 32 pages. So you guys do the math. But
not including covers, especially like Mike and those guys. Those covers are not cheap either.
Well, my dumbass always buys the original, so it always costs a little bit more.
Every time.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, because at the end of the day, I want them. They're ours, right?
Yeah.
So we get to control that. But we will have fun doing this. We'll keep doing it. And we want to hear from other people. We want to hear, when you're done reading it, we want people to get on Mythos Comics Group Facebook page or the Instagram page and write, I read book 3. I'm confused. Or I read book 3. This scene was really cool. Or who's this character? Or why did this happen? Right? Because then we can look at it and there's an engagement back and forth. And if you remember the old comics, Nathan, they don't do it anymore, right?
No.
It's a letter to the editor.
Yeah.
Right? Hey.
The bullpen.
Yeah, the bullpen, right? You get to write in and we publish it, right? How cool would it be to have in the omnibus Nate Simmons writing in, hey, when you drew this mermaid, why do they all have black hair? Where's the blonde? Right? And I'm like, oh, because they don't dye their hair underwater or some stupid shit, right? We can put that in there. Why not? Right?
Exactly.
Nobody does it. Right?
No.
But that's the purpose of this. We went to this last Comic-Con and Amy talked to these women for don't know, 15, 20 minutes just about the character development. And it was so cool. And it's cool. This is going to sound sappy. I've been doing comics for years, right? And I got like 200 covers and all this other stuff. I looked over and I grabbed her phone because people were coming up and like, Amy, can you sign my book? And she's signing her book. And it doesn't say Justin on there. It says Amy Hunt, right?
Yep.
Like, this is her thing. And I'm just the vocal front guy, right? Because I talk a lot. And I'm proud of her. And it's just cool. We're doing this together. And honestly, when we first started dating, she didn't know how deep of a nerd I was, which was on purpose because she would have ran.
Real fast.
Yeah, really quick. It was like, but anyway, it's cool because we get to do this together, and it sounds sappy, but how many other, like seriously, how many? You got Francisca and you got Brian, right? Yeah. How many other couples are making a book?
There's only 3 that I know of, right? That's Brian, Francisca, Deborah and Billy, Tucci, and you guys.
Yeah.
It's the only people I know. And the reason this is why it's successful too, because you guys work together, you lean on each other to make it work. Right. And it shows in the product that's going out. That's why it'll be a product that lasts versus you see all these books that go up and go out, right? Like onesie, twosie, threesies, and they're done. And you never see them again because there's not the passion that you guys have. And number one thing, this is Amy's book, right? And so this is her passion for the story to get it out to people. And you're the third wheel helping out, making sure to get everything done. So that's kind of, I mean, it's a great motivation, right? For readers and consumers to read something else. It's a book from somebody who never did comics before either, right? It's a completely different thing. You know, just like when I write, right? I write novelization. I don't write comics typically.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the catch, right? People will actually look at your book and say, holy crap. She has no idea what a comic book was, and she's made a phenomenal book, you know? And so I will say I'm proud of you guys. You guys have done amazing.
Thank you.
Well, we're not following the rules, right?
Correct.
Like I made a post, I think it was today, about like the mystery item. I was like, we'll do whatever the hell we want. Who's going to tell us no? Fuck you. Part of my French, right?
Exactly. It's your book. You can do whatever you want to do. It's your company.
Oh, wow. We do have a question. Mikey's action figures. Not too familiar with the back end of creating comic books. When doing the artwork for a cover, how many covers do you draw before you feel like it's a perfect one? 72. I buy sometimes just for the cover. I'll speak for myself, Mikey. I'll go through my head with a bunch of iterations first. And then I will sketch out like probably 5 to 8, like little small thumbnails and kind of thing. And then I'll work on it. And then I'll do it full size as a quick pencil sketch, and I'll keep going. And then I would say it's probably 3 to 6 iterations until I get the final one. And then what's crazy, right, is when you guys look at it and people see it and like, oh, your lines are so crisp. No, man, they're not. That's the final piece. You don't see the first 7 or 8 of them where it's just chicken scratch. And it's just rough lines, and I use a Sharpie to do it and stuff like that. And then I go onto my light box and I draw it with my light box, and I draw it like for example, like let's take it off because I'm going to redraw this one anyway because I hate it. Oops. So like this one, I drew this one like 8 times, and it's just the head. And then I drew, there's a big glare, but you can see this one. It's like his full cowboy outfit. Like I drew that one. This is probably drawing number 7 for this one. And then I'll put this on and I'll put a piece of Bristol over that, and then I'll put it on the light box, and then I'll do the final pencils. And then, like I was just telling everybody, I didn't like it. So now I'll redo it where I'll just do color, and then I'll come back and I'll do like, I'll use the India ink and a brush, and I'll do it overwards.
That was actually your third pose for that one, wasn't it?
Third or fourth pose. Yeah. So it's probably,
he went through a couple different poses with that one.
It's probably my 9th attempt, but I would say most artists, we do a minimum of 6. So, and the worst is when a client says, draw whatever you want, which honestly, it's nerve wracking, because you're like, you want to draw it, but you also want to appease the client. And you're like, well, the client's buying all this, so they must like this style, right? And for NinjaWitch, because it's our own character, I have a hard time, because I'm like, I don't want to draw it so it looks like I'm copying somebody else, right? But I want to draw it so it's dynamic. But then I'm like, I'm also lazy as an artist, right? Because I want to get it done. So I look at it and I'm like, oh man, if I draw this, it's going to take me 25 hours to draw this. I'm like, fuck, I only want to spend 3. How much can I change this to draw it in 3 hours versus 20 hours? Because time is still money as an artist, right? Mm-hmm. But the piece I do in 20 hours looks like this, and the piece I do for 25 hours is like, you know what I mean? So it's this weird trade-off. But I'll ask Amy, like, hey, what should I draw? She's like, I don't know, whatever you want. It's like asking a woman to go out for dinner. What do you want? I don't know. Whatever's good for you, dear. And then you pick something, and she's like, we're going out for steak. I don't like steak. Can we have tofu? No, you made your choice.
No, and that part is true. Yeah, but there are times when I tell you what to do with it.
Well, like the Anne piece, I drew like 5 times.
Well, I told you what to do with that cover, and you didn't listen.
But the NinjaWitch cover I did with the fire behind it.
Yeah.
She would come in and I'm like, get out of the studio. I'm working. Because I didn't want her to see it till it was done. Mm. And when I was done, I was like, how's this look? Actually, she was folding clothes, and I walked in and I was like, I'm done. She's like, yeah, it's good. What?
I didn't.
That's all I get? No.
Well, it's kind of funny. You were bringing up about doing commissions, right? Mm-hmm. You know the style I like. So you can just run rampant. And that just takes time to know how people are and what they like, what they don't like. Like for me, the only thing I'm particular about really with art is that you have fun with it when you do it. That's my main thing, right? Like, I don't care if it's whatever style, whatever pose, whatever it is, as long as you have fun with it and you're happy with it too. And that's actually a dual-edged sword with an artist, because you're never 100% happy with it. You always think that there's something you can fix to make it better. Yes, I've been around too many artists for too many years. But that's the thing. That just comes over time. It really does. A new artist that's only been out there for a couple of years, they're going to really struggle, because they're going to have to learn how everything works and get into the right areas. And no AI artists, none of that crap, but actual traditional actually puts the time in. Even digital artists, I have no problem with, because it's the same thing. They're doing the same level of work as a pen and pencil. Yep. I've seen a lot of them do it. Hell, I've got a couple of eyes like that where she did it on digital first, and then did the printout, right, and then does the coloring and sketching through it. Because sometimes you just don't want to draw it 8,000 times on a Bristol board, right? And then go through that and waste that amount of stuff.
Yeah.
But that just takes time. That's the big thing.
It does. And then with that too is like, when you're working with somebody and you're doing something, there's a lot of artists, and I'm going to say this carefully. I'm going to be the PC artist right now, right? There's a lot of artists who want to have a style. Right? Like Jim Lee, you can look and be like, that's a Jim Lee, or that's a Greg Capullo, that's a J. Scott Campbell. I don't want to be that guy, right? I want to be able to draw whatever the client wants. So if you wanted to draw want it cartoony, I can draw cartoony. You want it manga, I can do manga. You want it as a painting, and do realistic, right? So I try to be more diverse, which is why when people look, they're like, how do you know that's a Justin? Because it's got my fucking initials on it.
That's
like
the only way.
Part of my French. My New Jersey's coming out tonight. But there's a lot of them where you look at it and you're like, that's a specific style. And some people will hire an artist for that style, right? So a lot of times I'll have people like, can you draw it like Jamie Tyndall? And I'm like, no. Go hire Jamie Tyndall. But if you want me to draw this character, but you want it cartoony, but you want like really long legs with an Ian Flux, kind of feel to it, sure, right? I can give it a Jamie Tyndall feel to it, right? Because he's got the really long legs, short torsos and stuff.
Yeah.
I can do that, but I'm not going to draw Jamie Tyndall. Go hire Jamie. You know what I mean? But if you want, like I did a David Tennant piece for David Tennant. It looks like David Tennant, right? It's not a cartoon. It's a graphite drawing. But I think a lot of people get wrapped up in it of, I have to make it look like a Justin Hunt. No, I just have to draw it. And if you're happy with it, then we've met the obligation. Does that make sense?
It does. Because, here's the thing, right? Like, you don't have a defined style, which I actually enjoy, right? Like for example, when you did my commission, right, for the Native American Lady Death, right? Like did that.
Totally forgot I did that one.
That it's completely different than the other Lady Deaths you've done, different than La Muerta.
Oh yeah.
And I kind of appreciate that. Everything is different and it's not the same. Because, like, for example, if it's a Mike DeBalfa, it's a Mike DeBalfa.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a Marissa, it's a Marissa, kind of thing, right? Yeah. If I look at Hedwin and Omar, right, they're more in your style, right? Because they don't really cater to a certain style either. Right. They're kind of going with what is the story about, right? And then how this cover should look. So that's why I like the Saldivar brothers, because of that reason.
And I don't mean that as a negative to Mike or anybody else. Have a style if you want to. Mm-hmm. But I think for me, sometimes it forces more of a challenge on me, because I want to, like, honestly, like, I look at Mike Chrome, and Mike Chrome is such a, I don't even know how to describe his style. It's like, it's got this, it's not comic-y, but it's more illustrative kind of thing. And like, the women are built more proportionate to the way a real woman would be built, right? So when I draw, I try to do the same thing. And I will study. I'm like, how the hell did he draw that hand so it doesn't look like a man's hand? Or like, you draw it and like, did I do too much or did I not enough? So it's learning that stuff and working on it and all. And I have people I look up to as artists. So just want to draw it down my video. Yeah. Moose Patel. I agree. Just draw to draw, man. Don't worry about being into a box, right? Okay. And people will find you. Like I said, you look at my 200 and whatever it is covers I have, you can kind of see some stuff that's in there, but then you look at it and you're like, this one doesn't look anything like that one. Well, that's because this publisher wanted this and this publisher wanted this. So, some people want to be recognized as style. I don't particularly care whether I am. Also, I look at like people who've been doing it for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Like I have a Joseph Rubinstein up here. It's the same way he drew them 30 years ago. And in my thought, and I don't mean this as a disrespect to him as an artist, he's a legend, right? But it's very elementary. And it's like, you haven't advanced your skill set, right? Maybe he has, but that's what he's known for. So he can't advance his skill set because that's what he's known for. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it's like a Neil Adams, right? Like Neil's one of my favorite ones,
sure,
right?
Exactly the same.
You see a Neil, you see a Bernie Wrightson, right? They did those. You see a Frazetta, right? Frazetta's the same way. They're all the same style. But the thing with Neil that I appreciated when I got to work with him in California is that he would say, like, I did that style because that's what was asked to do, right? Like, because he did horror, he did Batman, he did Dead Man, he did a lot of like those kind of, in Green Lantern, of course, but that's because that's the style they wanted to. I got to see him do some X-Men, right? When he did the X-Men run, completely different, right? But it was the same style in all those X-Men books, right? It was the same Cyclops look, the same Wolverine look, so you kind of get myopically put into the same position, right? To do that.
Speaking of Neil Adams.
Oh yeah. Yep. I remember he put that one as the illustrated one.
Then the other Mr. Adams.
Yeah.
Again, very distinct style.
Correct.
Right? If he draws something else, they'll be like, that's not an Art Adams.
Yeah.
Arthur
Neil.
Adams. So this one, he did this one. So this is a print I got from him, and he wrote on it, "For Justin, draw." Okay. I was like, "Can you write something inspirational?" He's like, "Draw." Okay, thanks, dude. But he had the original, and the original art for this is not 1-to-1. It's like twice the size, right? It's huge.
Yeah.
And it was $9,000.
Yeah,
but
Art
I'll
Adams
happily
is
pay you $35 for a print, and you can sign it for me.
That's the thing. It's like Mike Mayhew, for example, right? Like, I've talked to Mike a couple of times trying to get some of his paintings, his actual real Vampirella paintings that he did. Yeah. And that probably cost you $300 or $400 just for that.
Yeah, it was. We'll put it in the drawer.
And that was my point with Mike, was like, dude, how much is your painting? Oh, it's $10,000.
Yeah.
Same way, even Joe Lisner now, right? Lisner is expensive now. Like
I was supposed to get a Linsner Indiana Jones 3 years ago. And I reached back out. I was like, hey, now I have the money for it. He goes, here's the new price. I was like, I don't have the money for it.
No. Yeah, he had a sale about 4 months ago on some pieces, and they were all $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 for one piece.
Yeah.
But that's his rate. And I can't hate his rate. That's just what it is, It
was $2,600 for an Indiana Jones like 4 years ago. And I was like, I just spent money on this. I would love to drop $2,600. So I reached out to him a couple months. He's like, $4,900. I was like, talk to you later.
Yep.
Now, mind you, Mr. Bisley's a little bit, because not only do we get him to do the cover, I get his original painting. So, needless to say, Amy get no presents for the next 5 years.
Oh yeah, he's not cheap. I had him do a remark, and the remark was still $500.
But how worth it?
It was so worth it, especially he did it on the Lobo DC book.
Yeah, this is the. I'm gonna take it out of the case because I don't want you guys to see it clear. It's on the Lobo blank sketch cover. When Amy said go get it, I was pushing over 5-year-old kids to get back to them because I didn't want anybody else to buy it before it was gone. But again, you understand, like
I do.
Yeah, right. It's we like what we like, and we pay for it.
And that's how I look at it. Like, I'm looking at all the artwork I have in my office, right? And it's like I enjoy every piece of it, even the chrome piece that took me forever to pay off. It's the same thing.
Here's my favorite chrome piece. I've never read this comic, but he did this piece, and I bought the original because I like the way he drew it.
Oh yeah.
And I was just like that white is just the background, but like when you look at the lady's face, like the detail and the background and everything, you're just like, doesn't this remind you of like a 1960s, 1980s kind of
like a heavy metal Barbarella?
Yeah, like a heavy metal sci-fi thing.
Yeah.
But to your point, right? I reached out to Mike. I was like, dude, I got to have it. He's like, well, it's this much. I was like, I'm sending you 500 now. And then my firstborn. And then I'm sending you more money on this date. But it I mean, so I'm just going to run around the room really quick and let you know. Because my art studio, I have 3 pieces of mine. But those are because she doesn't want me to sell them. So I have a Ben Dunn, Todd McFarlane, Eric Larson, Rob Liefeld, I can't remember his name, Jamie Tyndall, Gary Martin, can't remember his name, Joel Gomez, Joseph Rubenstein, Metcalf, Johnny Romita Jr., Mike Mignola.
Hopefully it's not Spider-Man.
The Romita?
Yeah.
Batman.
Okay, that's better.
Batman. And then I have Randy Emberlin, Mike Mignola, Alex Ross. These are all OAs. Gary Martin. Now, Alex Ross, we won't tell you how much, right?
That's what I was about to ask.
Yolanda, David Williams, Bella Racklin, Larry Hama, Kevin Eastman, and Eric Henson, and another Joel Gomez, and then Rick Hoberg. Oh, yeah, Rick Hoberg. I have his piece. It's in the drawer over there. And then I have a Neil Adams piece in the other drawer. It's a small one. Somewhere I have my Frank Frazetta piece from when I was a kid that I got for mowing the lawn. It's just, I'm surrounded by great art. We have out in the hallway, we have Moog Park, Mike DeBalfo, Bella. We have Anna Joe. Sorry, Anna. We have Marissa Pope, right? We have
Joel, obviously.
We have a lot of Joel. Anna or Bella. Yeah, we have Mike Chrome original, 2 pieces of Mike's. So
then I have that one Rogue. I can't remember that guy's name.
Michael Golden. He created Rogue.
Mike Golden. Yeah, he's a good guy.
He created Rogue. We were at a show and my booth was right next to him and she walked away and she's a huge Rogue fan. I went over and was like, hey, Mr. Golden. He's like, call me Mike. I was like, okay, Mr. Golden. Can I get a commission? He's like, I'm not doing commissions. I was like, oh, okay. So he's like, why? What's wrong? I was like, my wife is a huge Rogue fan. I'm not just saying it, but she loves Rogue. He's like, oh, well, I'm not doing commissions. So she was over there and she was doing stuff and she went away and he came over and he goes, I saw in XYZ and I remember, I saw you look at her and you were just so happy to see her coming up to you and bringing you brought me the root beer.
Oh.
And I was like, yeah. I said, I absolutely love her. I'll do anything. He goes, well, here's how much it is for her thing. And I can draw it in the next hour. I was like, cash, here you go. And he came back and he wasn't doing any commissions, but he did that one for her. So that was my gift to her. I gave her a Michael Golden original Rogue, which.
You were lucky.
Right.
He does not do commissions at all.
So, yeah. And then Rick Hoberg, we were across from at a show. And of course, I have this huge Star Wars piece that I didn't even know was going to be at the show. Otherwise, I would have brought it. But I'm sitting across from him and I'm fanboying, right? Because Rick Hoberg.
Bad.
And I was like, I got to go see what he's got over there. So I walked over and I started talking to him. And I was like, how much for a sketch? So he's like, what do you want? I was like, who's your favorite Star Wars character? He's like, Obi-Wan Kenobi. I was like, an Obi-Wan Kenobi sketch. He goes, who's your favorite Star Wars character? I said, at this point, Obi-Wan Kenobi, because if it's his favorite, he's going to draw him the best. So he did that. He did that for me, and it was really cool. He did it.
Super nice guy.
That was
right?
good.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. He did an original and he signed it. And then he, while we're at the show, he came back over and he's like, hey, I just sent you a friend request on Facebook. I'm like, okay. And then he went through my my art, and he was looking at my art, and he's like, "Oh, I really like your style. I like," and he was talking to me, and I was just like,
He's freaking out, geeking out.
Well, it's cool, right? It's cool when
is.
these legends come up, and
I don't know him very well, and he's like, Amy, you have to go look at this one thing in his art book. So I went over and looked, and as I'm looking, he starts talking to me, and boy, that guy's a talker. He's so nice, super nice.
It's and I have his thing because I want to buy it. It's an X-Men original cover piece that he did, and penciled and inked it. And I was like, Amy, you got to see this one. Like, I'm not an X-Men fan, but I will fucking pay for this piece right here. So, yeah, I might have to sell some more of my own art to go buy that one. But it's just like, I got a Kevin Eastman, right? I got a Joseph Rubinstein, Larry Hamas. I mean, these are the legends who paved the way for Schmuckowskis like myself and others to be able to do this, Well,
and I remember the first time. So when I used to go to San Diego Comic-Con every year when I lived in California. Getting to sit down with like Denny O'Neil, Neil Adams, Jim Steranko, Jim Starlin was there, right? Getting to meet the old guys who had built up Marvel Comics and then DC.
Thanos.
It was a blast, and they just tell you story after story after story. Because you know what, they're not the big guys anymore. They're not the important ones making the money in the comics at the time, and so they would just talk your head off all day. So I sat there for a day and a half of San Diego Comic-Con just talking to the old artists, and that's when I really realized that I'm not a big 2 fan anymore. Right, is because I see what happened to the artists and writers. Right, they went through their stage where they did really well, and then they were let go.
Yeah,
right. And independent's not done that way. Independent is more of a community base where we try to take care of each other. There's still some goofballs out there too, but everybody has it. But most of the time, I can reach out to anybody in our community and talk to you because we're all just normal people.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like I remember meeting Jim Lee in the 90s, right? When he was doing X-Men.
Yeah.
Free signature, right? Now $450 a signature for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've actually had people ask us, well, how much for a signature on the book? And I'm like, nothing. We don't charge for signatures. I thought that was like crazy that somebody would actually ask how much we charge. Like, I don't know why you need to charge for a signature.
Well, I mean, so some people do it like they got like 1,000 books, right? It's time to sit there and sign them, so you get paid for that. But my thought process, and I just believe that if we don't have fans, we don't have a product, we don't have a job, right? So, like signing it's literally hunt. It's not like it takes me, like they're not asking for a free remark.
Yeah.
Right. So sure, I'll sign it, no problem. I mean, even when I do prints, I sign them, right? But it's crazy, right? And then, like my coolest moment as a comic book artist, hands down. I'm at a convention. My booth, where my booth was supposed to go, they had a water leak, so they moved me. And this other guy didn't show up. So the other guy was Steranko. He didn't show up. There was something going on. So they put me between Mike Mignola on my right and Adam Hughes on my left.
You're lucky.
Lucky but not lucky, right? I only made like $200 the whole weekend.
Oh yeah,
right.
Money wise.
I'm sitting there and I'm talking, and they're talking about stuff, and like this is right before the new version of Hellboy came out, and they're talking about stuff, and Mike Mignola was actually brought in to come up with some of the concepts and all. So he was talking about it. I was like, oh my God, that's the scene from when Hellboy rides off with King Arthur. He's like, you've read it? I'm like, well, yeah, of course I've read it. Who hasn't, right?
It's Hellboy.
And then he's like, well, what's your favorite one? I was like, I don't want to say it. He goes, no, what's your favorite? I was like, the Krampus one that Adam drew. And Adam's like, that's right, bitch. And I'm like, these two are arguing, right? So anyway, Mike Mignola is like, hey, can you draw Abe Sapien? And I'm like, yeah. So I get this sheet and I'm drawing Abe Sapien, and he's sitting right there watching me draw his character. And I'm telling you, if you could
Sweaty.
Yeah, I was just like clammy. I'm feeling like I'm gonna pass out. I'm drawing it, and he's watching, and I'm trying to draw this perfect Abe Sapien, but not in his style, right? Because you don't want to. So I'm drawing it. So I give it, I draw it, and he grabs it and he goes, "Cool," and he sets it aside. And then like the next hour, I'm just sitting there, and people are coming up, and they're like, "Oh, who are you?" And he's like, "Oh, he's some guy." I'm just like, here's my portfolio. You can look at it. And they're like, no, we're cool. And they skip over me and go to Adam. So then he turns around and he gives me this 11 by 14 sheet of paper. Okay. He trades me my Abe Sapien for a Hellboy.
Oh, yeah.
But this thing's like 4 inches by 2 inches, right? But Amy, that's $1,000
for the head. Yep.
Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? So, like, I traded my shitty version of Abe Sapien for a Mike Mignola original. Okay.
We do it again?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll draw the shit out of Abe Sapien at this point, right? But you know what I'm saying? Like, where else can a kid, right? I'm in my 50s. Where else can a kid sit between these two guys and they weren't treating me like I was just some kid, right? It was for me, it was one of the coolest moments I had of like, not that I've been accepted. I don't mean it like that, but it was just like, he respected that I was drawing and I was trying. And for payment, I got an original Mike Mignola. Right? And now I'm friends with him on Facebook. What? Are you kidding me? Like, I'm friends with Rick Hoberg, David Williams, Gary Martin, right? Chris Marin. Randy Emberlin sees me. His wife walks up and asks me if I want a soda. Like, where else? If you told me when I was 16 that I was going to go know these guys and they were going to see me and they're going to recognize me at a Comic-Con, nah, not in a million years. You know?
Well, that's how it was for me as a kid, right? Because I remember in the 80s, right, I was reading Green Lantern from Neil Adams and Jenny O'Neill. Never thought in my wildest days that I'd be working in his shop in California at Krusty Bunkers, right? Like, getting to meet him and his son and his wife and getting to talk to the old people. I'm like, dude, I never thought that would happen. Now, granted, the military made it happen.
Sure.
Because being able to be moved around and stuff. But you never thought that would ever happen. Like getting to meet, Jim Lee and getting to meet Stanley and all those guys. I mean, I would have loved to meet Jack Kirby. That would have been the penultimate meeting to get to meet him. And Ditko and those guys, from the 60s. But Ditko didn't meet nobody, period. That was his rule.
Yeah.
But
he's
I got
like
to
Alex Ross, right? He's an introvert.
Yep, he doesn't do anything. Like I just did his Kickstarter, right, for the Kingdom Come.
Yeah.
Because that's one of my favorite series of all times. He did that. He did Justice. And then I read all of that series with it. But it's one of those things, like you in a place now where you can do that. Right, like anybody, like I'm looking around, like I have a lot of stuff from like Mike DePascal, right, who's been around for a long time doing work, and he's a good friend of mine. I've known him for almost 7 years.
And he's stepped away from it. He's just doing random shit now.
Yeah, I mean, he started doing a couple sketches every week now, but it's nothing compared to what he was doing before. Like I had him do an original Lady Death and Death Dealer combo commission. And that was the last Lady Death he did, period, as far as a commission. But it's like, I love being able to talk to everybody and get to know them. And you can't do that with the big two. No. That's the thing is like, I remember talking to Wills Portacio, right? And Wills was telling me, like, it's not the same market anymore.
Right.
He's like, everybody that was in the 80s and 90s, we're no longer there no more.
Yeah.
You know, you don't see us a lot because there's nobody wants to see us anymore. I mean, rest in peace, George Perez, but he was saying, dude, I don't even get work half the time anymore. And that was getting sad, right? Like, he was getting stuck to being just to doing things here and there. I have his last book that he did.
Okay.
And it was signed by him, you know, as part of a Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And it was, and sad, you know, what's funny is it's with Marat. He did it with Marat with Pray for the Sinner.
Okay.
That was his last book. And this is the guy who did Crisis on Infinite Earth, you know, and did Titans, New Teen Titans. And, you know, it's just kind of sad to see like all the old guys get left behind.
Yeah.
While all the new artists that are in the big two, right, are getting pushed so much.
Yeah, we did reach, so friends with Randy Emberlin. I went to him, and every time I see him or his wife at a show, I'm like, hey, I know Randy's retired, but I want him to do a cover. And he's like, no, I'm retired. And I'm like, hey, Randy, going to do a cover? So actually we went to Rose City Comic-Con, and we sent my son up. And I was like, so he went up, and he's like, hey, you draw really good. And Randy's like, thanks. And he's like, yeah, you should draw a NinjaWitch cover. And he's like, where's Justin? He knew I was standing store. So I'm like pawning off my stepson to go like try to get Randy, because Randy's he created Carnage, right?
Yeah.
And oh man, like I've got some stuff from Randy, and fucking we go to this last show, and he's across from us and down a bit. His wife sees Gabe, and she's like, Randy, grab that and sign that and give it to this kid for free. And I'm like, what? Charge him money for that. But to your point, like Steve Butler, right? He does stuff and everything. Right?
I love Steve.
If I could get Rick Hobart to do a cover, now, will a lot of people recognize the name? No. Right? But the fact that it's a cover, like this guy's been doing covers since 74, 75, right? I mean, that's a long time to be drawing, you know? And it's just like, I mean, I can't say this enough, and you already know it, but the fact that we got Simon Bisley doing a cover for NinjaWitch, are you kidding me? It's only the 5th book. Like, you have no idea.
Maybe once Randy hears that Simon's doing it, maybe Randy will come around. I like Randy too.
I'll tell you, like,
I like him.
Randy's a cool guy. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want a Rob Liefeld. I don't want Todd McFarlane to do covers. They're good in their own rights, right? Yeah. I'd love to have a Joseph Michael Linsner. I showed her the ones that he's done recently for like the Barbarella and Vampirella and Deja Thoris and stuff. But it's like we just had James Doppelhammer do these covers, and we really are enjoying discovering new artists, because that's what Brian does too, right? You find somebody, and give them a chance. But to have a legend come on, like, I asked David Williams to do one, and he's like, I'm not doing covers anymore. I'm like, all right. You know, and like Gary Martin, he's like he wrote the Bible and inking and all. And I have like some of his original stuff, and I can message him on Facebook, like, hey, Gary, how are you? And he's like, hey, Justin, haven't talked to you in a while. I'm like, this is, to your point, like, this is crazy, man. You know? And then what I find crazy is when people are like, they come to the show and they're like, we came to the show to meet you. Why? But why? You know?
Even I got that this show.
Well, those people were pissed off because the last 2 places you were supposed to be at, you weren't
was not
there.
Supposed to be.
They've been trying to find her to sign these books, and they showed up at this show, and they're like, we were starting to think you weren't even real.
Justin made it all up.
Yeah. Yeah, my wife's hot. No, believe me, really, she's real. She's real. It's all Photoshop and cardboard cutouts. So we just being part, and you know, Nathan, you're part of this too, right? Just being part of the comic industry, it's such a weird thing. And I know that Kickstarter is this unique. It's the good and the bad, right? You got pros and cons of it. But like until this happened, until the digital age, for me to actually make a comic, I would have to go to Antarctic Press, which I'm friends with Ben Dunn, and he's a great guy, and he does his own thing.
Yeah.
But you'd have to go, and you have to basically pimp the shit out of yourself and hope that they pick you up. And now I got the opportunity where I don't have to follow the comic code. I don't have to follow the rules of it. We wanted to do X, Y, Z. We just do it, right? And the printer we use, we built a really good relationship where we just, I don't even use their special order forms. I created my own order form and I send it to them like, here's what I need. And they send me an invoice and they do it quick. Right. And we've actually done this like unwritten thing where like, we're not going anywhere else. Even if your prices are more than them, this relationship is worth something. But we're super excited. And I know we're supposed to be talking about NinjaWitch and Mythos, but NinjaWitch is something that if people are watching it, wherever, I don't know where you have the link or whatever, down here, go to the link, check it out. You know, even if you buy just one cover for $25, it helps buy her next Louis Vuitton purse. But
No.
Anyway,
I don't want any more.
No, anymore. She has plenty.
Yet.
Anyway,
more later.
Anyway.
Okay.
So, but my point is, people like help us make more books, right? We have a blast doing this stuff, and we absolutely love it. And we like to hear from people, meet people. And Nathan and I have gone from being members of Swornfest to friends. You know, so.
I mean, that's the thing too, is we in the independent scene, which even with Sworn is a big one, right? Because the Sworn brought a lot of us together that we might not have ever met each other, right? But we all had a comic, love, right? And it was for Lady Death and the stuff from the 90s, the Bad Girl stuff, which is why I got to know Billy, from She. I got to know Mike, Joe Michael Lisner a little bit from Dawn, right? And then even Evelyn Hartsoe, right? From Razor, from back in the day. Got to know all these guys. But we got to really branch out together and learn, about life in general, not just comics, right? Like get to actually be friends. This is the only industry you can do that. You can't do that in the entertainment world. You can't do that in the sports world, right? As a consumer, but only in the comic world can you do that. And really only in the independent world, right? Because the main two is hard enough to get into. And then a lot of people I see that go to the big two, you don't see again for a while, right? I would say some of the exceptions would be like Ariel, right? Ariel is really good about it. Nathan Zerdy, right? He's done a lot in it too. Dawn, she just got into Marvel doing some of their stuff this last year. So that's kind of the catch-22. That's why we stayed kind of indie for that reason, because we're still a family.
Yeah, well, and with the big two, right? You're part of the machine, right? And we're not the machine. And the other part is like, the big two, that's our competition, right? And collectively, the indies, you go into a comic shop and Marvel has, they're printing 40,000 of a book, 20,000 of a book. We're not printing that, right? Okay. You go into a comic book shop or go to a show. Brian Polito's not my competition, right? Dustin Brunel is not my competition. Right, Carissa Grant is not my competition, and all the other indies, right? They're not my competition. They're fellow indie creators, and if you were to think about it, we're all collectively kind of together, and there's enough of us to hit everybody's flavor palette, And just because we don't have a certain artist on the cover, doesn't mean we don't like the person. It's just they don't fit. Also, we don't have so much money to spend, right? And you only have so many covers to do, and so many insurers to do, and stuff like that. But if you go to the thing, you'll see I support a lot of other people because I want them to succeed, right? when I go to shows, that's how we found some of them. We see these people and they're working on stuff, and this new direction that we're going to kind of spin off of with NinjaWitch has been driven by some of that, of what do the people want? What are they asking for? We've had some people are like, hey, this would be cool, XYZ. And we're like, you know what? We agree. Let's try it. If you went to Marvel and said, hey, you know, I think Iron Man should be doing this, they'll be like, go away.
Yeah.
Right. And we that's what makes this really fun. And Amy walks around the shows and she goes online and she's like, did you see this artist? I'm like, yeah, it's not going to fit because of this. Or I'll see something. I'm like, oh my God, this is great. And she's like, well, that's great, but this Wolverine that they drew looks like that. I'm like, oh wow, I didn't see that one. Or we both see one. We're like, how's this one? And that's like, she picked Edward Souza, right? And she's like, I like his art. And we reached out to some other artists, and they're busy, right? Or we get some of them that we see at shows. That's how Jaden Doppelhammer came on, and some of the others. Like Courtney Rose, she's been on 3 of the 4 books, and it's. Her books don't sell. They're not the number one seller, but there's a following, and her style fits the character. Mm-hmm. And we've gotten to a point where she bribes us. She sends us cookies at Christmas. So we put her on a book. But she's a good person, right? Yes. And to be able to help her, and then what we also do is we send her some comps and stuff. And it's not just her. It's the others. It's Anna, right? Who comes up and we're like, send me a sketch, and she sends 3 and we can't decide. So we're like, we'll do all 3, you know,
which is what we did with Doppelhammer as well. Cause we liked everything that he did.
Well, and he was cool too, because like he did this one sketch and it was like her just sitting there. And I was like, dude, the way her arms are, put a skull behind her so her hands form the eyes of the skull. And he's like, how? I'm like, I don't know. You figure it out. I'm just telling you as the art editor, that's what I want. Right. And he did it. And it was great. And then there were some tweaks, and I was like, you got to change this and that, which is really kind of cool, because I get to step back as being the artist, as being to the owner. Right. And this is how I want it. But we get to work with these other artists, and Rob Hicks, I still think is one of the coolest covers we've had.
Yeah. That's one of your favorites.
It is one of my favorites. It was in book 1. It was like a top-down look, and she's like in an arsenal room standing on a pentagram, and her hood's down. We got stuff by Marissa Pope. We got Mike Crome. We got Joel Gomez. We got, Balfo, Zaldivar. Good God, I can't remember. We have a whole wall full of great art. But it's getting to work with all of them. And one thing that you've seen, Nathan, and hopefully people see, when we post, we don't post like just this. We make sure we say, here's everybody who's contributed.
Yeah.
Right? Because they have a value. They're part of the cog. They're part of the machine that makes us Mythos. You know? Even like Shannon Potratz, who did the interior pencils for the first book. He's not doing them now, but he was still part of the process. And we have art from J. Travis Smith and a couple others who did like test pages. They didn't fit yet. It's not to say we're not going to use them later, right? But
for a different book.
Yeah, they might work for a different book, but they didn't fit for this, what we were looking for. But it's man, I just don't know how to explain how cool it is to be on this side versus being told how to draw something.
Well, and that's the thing, right? It's your book, right? And that's the big thing, right? Is that you guys get to make it or break it, right? And so people have to work with it within those parameters, because you ultimately are the ones that are putting your name on it. And so it's got to be exactly the way you want it. And if it's not, then it's got to be done right. Fix it, you know.
Which is how we got to being Mythos, right? We originally reached out. We shared this with you before.
Yep.
For those who are watching, we originally presented to another publisher. We won't
name names.
Nope.
But we presented to another publisher, and my day job is nothing but contracts. So I wrote a really very well written contract where we owned everything and we had final say. And it was overly sexualizing the character, and it's not the way we wanted the character portrayed.
The story was
flat.
Oh, it was rough. It was a rough read, even just reading the script that they wrote. But yeah, what got me was the over sexualization. I'm like, that's not what I want.
The story was presented okay, but when they scripted it and drew it, it destroyed it. So we fired them. Yeah. And the answer was, good luck on your own. And we said, okay. And here we are 4 books later doing it and
having better Kickstarters, more successful Kickstarters than they are.
Yeah.
Well, that's not the point, but the point is, like, when I look back, we still have some of the art from the first one, right? And in the omnibus, I'm going to put that shit in there because we own it, right? I'm going to say, here's what it could have been. Here's where it's at. But to your point, we want it to be a certain way. So we get to control that. We own the IP. We have the Library of Congress behind this. There's the Library of Congress copyright paperwork, right? This is ours. We own it. And we will make it. I'm going to sound like Brian Pulido, right? This is our IP. We're going to make it the way we want to, and we're going to do it our way.
You got to. It's the only way it's going to work for you, right? And if it's not done that way, then you won't feel like it was 100% successful, right? You know, when it's funny. It's like I hear a metaphor all the time working with Dustin, right? Is like, we don't half-ass anything. We only whole-ass it all, right? And the reason is because we put everything into it.
Yeah.
And it says how it is. You got to put everything into it, and it's got to be right.
What if you have to get the coin to put into the book to open
for the omnibus?
Yeah, the omnibus has a release, and the coin.
A recess.
What?
You gotta have a coin first, so
gotta buy the coin with book 5, and then you can open your omnibus. And if you don't book 5, you can't open the omnibus. No, because on it you can actually put holes in the side of this that line up and you hit it.
Dude, this is like the Goonies.
It is like the Goonies. It sounds exactly like that.
Let's do it.
Right. See, he said let's do it. So Nathan's gonna invest.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna buy it. So
which is an investment. So but no, how cool would it be to actually have a coin in the book?
How much is that going to cost?
No. I'm saying no. They don't have to open it. But when you get the book, like at the bottom, there's numbered coins, and the coin is actually mounted into the book. So that's how you know your number on the book. Your coin is number 1, number 2, number 3.
Exactly.
So there's going to be a hole in the book?
No. Your leather has a recessed portion of it, and these are adhered into it. So it's printed on one side where it has like a little band that has a number. So like a challenge coin, military challenge coins.
They're all challenge coins, yeah.
But it's in there. Like instead of just I have a book, I have book 1. Here's the coin. Right? They can't pop the coin out if they want to. It'll ruin the book.
Oh, but isn't that the point? You kind of want to like.
No, you can get a coin separate, but on the book it has special coins that are only minted for that book.
Okay.
Even this, we'll do this too. You put a number, then you put the initials of the person.
On the coin?
On the coin.
Man, you want me to spend money. But what we will do, and we think this is cool, is the what are they called? They're called blocks, but there's a special name for them. But it's the sticker that says like E pluribus, whatever. This is belong. Yeah. We're gonna have those for the omnibus, but you can only get them when you back book 5.
So you got to back. And you can't get there unless you don't back the 4th book that we're on today. So you guys need to back the book. And so I'm going to put the link up again just so everybody sees it. Definitely go click on it. It's down below in the description too. And then, of course, go support Mythos. I put the Facebook group down below as well. So go support us. It's a fun time. And it's a great book. And, everybody out there, Definitely. Come join us and have fun. So I do want to say thank you, Amy. Thank you, Justin, for an awesome night. We always love having you guys here on the channel. We always have a great time.
Yeah.
You didn't even know it's already been 3 hours.
I know, it's crazy.
Because
my bladder's feeling it. My bladder's feeling the 3 hours.
Well, that's because you drink these freaking Stanleys.
I dehydrate easily.
But thank you, everybody came out tonight. We appreciate all of you. You guys take it easy. Join the Kickstarter down below and keep watching out. You never know what kind of cover Justin's going to be doing for any company. Just keep an eye out on the group. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.